Okay, we're going to reconvene as the Board of Equalization. Yeah,
Good afternoon. Okay, so we can just start with the first property owner is Matt and Allison. And Lisa from my office will be here.
I have printed copies of kind of my summary, if that would be helpful.
what we'll do is we'll let Lisa present first, and then we'll come back.
That should be enough.
Thank you, Shannon.
Thanks, Lisa.
Hi, I'm Lisa Nelson, staff appraiser with Pennington County Equalization. Subject property is tax ID 67641. Address is 4569 La Hinch Street. It's a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, 3-car garage on .42 acre. It's located on Red Rocks Golf Course. Has 1,560 square feet above grade, 1,560 basement with 1,410 square foot finished in the basement. Owners are Matt and Allison Asphalt. Purchased the home December 2021 for $750,000. We sent out our assessed value as of November 1st, 2022 at $724,800. That's the land valued at $89,300. Improvements at $635,500 for a total value of $724,800. Local board changed the value to $630,800. I recommend value change of $717,800. That's with $89,300 for land, $628,500 for improvements. We did have a slight data correction for fireplace count when Trevor from our office talked to Matt, I believe. With market appreciation since sale date, $717,800 is not over market value. If we adjusted for market from sale date December 2021 to November 1st of 2022, just for time, it would be $821,713. We have this home as a good plus quality. All comparable sales are similar in size, age, and quality, with best comparable being the sale of the subject property for $750,000 in December of 2021, which is comp number 1. Another great comparable is 4613 La Hinch Street. That's comparable number 2. It's on the same street and on the golf course, like the subject property. The other 3 comparables are not on the golf course, but still sold very well. Owner did supply 3 or 5 comparable properties. However, the abundance of sales in the area, much more similar to the subject property. These were not used in the comparable sales. 2 of the comps on Wind River Road were both townhomes, not single-family residents like the subject property. 6125 Cloud Peak Drive and 6315 Dunsmore Road were both of lesser quality, good or good minus. 4547 Donegal Way, they had the sale of August 2022 for $712,000. That property also sold in May of 2022 for $790,000. I did contact the listing and buyer agent to find out if there were extenuating circumstances as they relisted the property within 30 days after purchasing it. He did say they sold it to a friend with no realtor commissions paid. I did ask for an appraisal, but didn't receive one from the owners.
Okay. Thank you, Lisa. Matt?
Yes, thank you for your time, and thank you for the opportunity to be a part of the appeals process. As the first-time home buyer and owner in Rapid City, this process is new to me. I will work through the summary statement here, highlighting that the assessed building property value for this parcel has increased by the county's assessment by 74% in just 2 years. And that 74% increase is comprised of a 43% increase from 21 to 22, and another 22% increase from 22 to 23. There have been no property improvements during this time period. All building permits were completed prior to the 21 assessment. that is the building property value, not the entire property value, as the land property remained the same across all years. The valuation adjustment that we requested to our local board was a value of $630,800. That represents a consistent land value of $89,300, a building value of $541,500. And this still reflects a 48% increase over 2 years and a 3% increase on the most current year from 22 to 23. It is in my opinion that the requested valuation of $630,800 reflects a market correction in 2022 of 43% and a respectable degree of valuation growth for 2023. This results in an assessed property value more consistent with similar property types and sizes in the same neighborhood. There are a number of factors. It's been questioned, and rightfully so, how does a property change in value to go from $750,000 to a requested valuation of $630,800 in such a short amount of time? But it is important that we recognize the impact of mortgage rates. So if we make the assumption on this property purchased at $750,000 with a standard 20% down payment of $150,000 on a 30-year mortgage, the interest rate in December of 2021 when the home was purchased, 3.12%, equaling a monthly payment of $2,568. Total interest expense across the life of the loan, $324,703. A year later, in December of 2022, that same 30-year term would be 6.31% rate, resulting in a monthly payment of $3,717, an increase of $1,149 or 45% to the home buyer. That's an interest increased of, or an interest total interest expense of $738,389. That's an increase of $413,686 to a home buyer. 127% increase. I highlight that to highlight what has changed to the true market value of homes in our community and in communities across the United States due to the change in interest rates. The impact of inflation. According to the U.S. Bureau of Statistics, the Consumer Price Index demonstrates that there's been a 6.5% decrease in the value of the dollar over the 1 year period referenced here. The impact of construction materials or raw material costs for building a home. During that same 1 year period, lumber decreased by 60%. Resins, including PVC and HDPE, used primarily in siding, window framing, flooring, have decreased by over 20% during the same period. Thus, the cost to build a new home, and therefore affecting the market value, has decreased. There are a number of comparable properties, including those which the county has provided, along with a data sheet attached to this. The first sheet being a comparable sales, the second sheet reflecting comparable properties on the same street address. So same street, LaHinch Street. But there's three that I want to call note to. The first coming from Pennington County Assessor's Office, comp number 5. At 6505 Prestwick Road, property ID 3729103003. This property has a square footage of 3,534, approximately 400 square feet more than our own property. The sale date was 12/17 of 21. Interestingly enough, the same week as our own property. The sale amount was $829,945. The 2023 assessed value is $776,900. From public records, we also see that 4527 LaHinch Street, property ID 3729230-005, a property that is physically adjacent to our property, has a square footage of 2,527, slightly less, but it has a sale date of 1/28/22. So roughly a month from the time of our own sale. The sale amount was $635,000. The current assessed value is $558,500. I called those two properties to view because it demonstrates that there are properties in this neighborhood and in this market that the county recognizes are not to be assessed at the same value as what they were sold at. The third one is at 6125 Cloud Peak Drive, property ID 37204777003, square footage of 3,074, very similar to our own, within about 50 square feet. That sale date was just this November, 11/9/22. To my understanding, that's approximately the same time that county assessment and assessment values were determined. The sale amount of that property was $610,000. The assessed value, $697,000. This property demonstrates that assessed values are not consistent with current market values. I would also add that that property sat on the market from June of last year when it was first listed and finally sold in November. So the time on the market is longer and the value on the market is less. So I would also like to call attention to the fact that the Rapid City Board of Equalization did vote unanimously to uphold the appeal that was requested to them to assess the property at $630,800, and they fully supported that request.
Thank you, Matt. Commissioners, is there any questions for Lisa?
Yes,
Ms. Hadcock?
thank you, Chair. So you have, let's see what subject would be, on Cloud Peak. 608 and 5936. You have Cloud Peak Drive, 666,747. And then the other one at 6008, Cloud Peak at 746,599. But the one I looked at with 5936 seemed like the comparable with the subject's property. What was the difference on the 666, 747 compared to his property? Why, when you did comparables, did you put one at 666 and 746 or 717 in this case, Miss Lisa?
That is the adjusted sale price, so that is going to be with time and any differences that were
Oh.
different from the subject property.
So you're basing it on sale price, not comparables?
No, it's the sale price, but then there are adjustments that are made as well, and that's the adjusted price.
So I have to ask the question, is the sale price in some of these properties, I think in what, I don't know, maybe 2021, sale prices were going pretty high. And we don't base it on sale prices, right? We base it on equalization because we are doing equality across the board, right?
Well, the price is also taken into consideration, not just one, but all of the comparables.
So Gary's could have sold for 620,000 one year. And so that's what we based Gary's on in 18, not that Gary sold the house, and that because this one was sold for 750, if Gary sold him the house but he paid 650 and then he sold it for 750, the comparable is because he could sell it for 750?
Well, the comparable is going to be in the time adjustments too. So if it was in 2018, it's going to bring it up to when our assessment date was. So that's going to be the adjusted price.
But we base it on square footage of basements, bedrooms, am I correct? That's how we equalize and how much property there is, and then in our bottom line is we see how much the property sold for. But if there's such a change in property sales, how can we base it on property sales? Because we say we don't do that, we're just doing equalization. Do you see where I'm going?
It's taken into consideration the price and everything else,
Okay.
and the adjustments.
That's why it's assessed actually lower than the sale price.
Well, that's why I'm saying that,
And
but
it's
then.
considered, if you look further down, just saying, the building cost value to have to rebuild it also goes up.
But when people don't, here's my issue, when people don't change anything and a sale goes on in a neighborhood, and during a sale, Gary can get more for his property in 2020 to 22 than he could the whole time, but now that sale prices are going higher, we said we didn't do that, we only did it by equalization. We didn't do it by what something sells for because it could be a higher low time in selling prices. And maybe I'm wrong, and Shannon, maybe you could correct me. I didn't think we ever based it on sale price. We always based it on because those sales, we do it by equalization, equal by how many bedrooms, how many things, and then what does that come, where's it at now? We can't go because it sold for 750 because 2021 or 22, you could sell your house. We could sell stuff back then if we wanted to a lot higher than we can today or any other time before then. So how do we base it on the time that people are getting some amazing prices? Because I don't think they're getting those. I can tell you right now, they're not getting those right now. They're not selling those houses and doing that stuff like they are today. So now we go back to equalization by a sale price today. So if he could sell his house today, you're saying he could sell it for $750.
Yes. So actually, November 1st, not today.
Yeah.
We're looking at the
Well, that's what I
assessment date
mean.
of
Yes,
November
sir.
1st.
Yes, sir.
And it could sell for what we have it assessed at. The law requires us to assess it at what it could sell for. We determine what it could sell for by looking at what other properties are selling for. So sale prices are absolutely important, but not every home is exactly the same. Some are bigger, some are smaller, some are older, some are newer. So we have to account for those adjustments as well. But sale price is absolutely what our assessment is based on.
But I thought I had visited with you before, and maybe I misunderstood, and I'm not trying to be yucky or anything. I thought when we said because prices are high or low, it doesn't matter.
There-
It's where the market's at.
Well,
So
there's
we're-
always high sales in the market, there's always low sales in the market. So
Right.
we look at all of the sales, and our values tend to be in the middle there, because some people pay more than others would for a property. Some people get a good deal, pay less than others would. We're looking at what it would typically sell for.
So if he bought it for $750, we should put it at $717, even if he got at that time,
His sale is just one sale in the market.
right.
So we're looking at all of the sales. We don't assess a property at its sale price, because that's just one sale in the market.
Okay, so then you have like Cloud Peak and some other ones, Miss Lisa, that are comparables, that's 666. And some of them are 821, 746. I'll be straight. Okay, so going from six something to, it's not you, Lisa, and personally, it's when the market is high, and I understand we can get more money then. I mean, I sell properties or I have properties. So we get to get more high this year. But how about the other 10 years that you had to sell it at a certain, because it didn't equalize because of property values? So now that property values went up, maybe there's recession or something comes next, we're not going to drop that property value.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
we
It's
will.
assessed at market value. If our market goes down, our assessments go down.
Correct.
So if his assessment goes down because of market value, because of recession or anything else,
For whatever
he
reason.
can come in and say, okay, it's recession and this is what's happening and the market value.
Hopefully he doesn't have to. If our market goes down, we lower our assessed values to market value, and he wouldn't have to come in and ask that it be lowered.
But you don't do assessments but every
Once-
7
once a
years.
year. It's once a year, yes.
Well, you go in different areas every 7 years.
But every property is reassessed every year.
Mr. Chair,
Okay,
just a
No,
question.
Might not be
clarify.
inspected every year, but every property is reassessed every year.
thank you, Shannon.
Mr. Laster.
And Commissioner Hadcock, this might help too. And I think Shannon pointed that out. We don't base it on a sale price, because if we did it on a sale price, he would be valued at $750,000. He's actually being valued at $717,000, so he's actually less than what he bought the property for, so it is reduced, not just off of the sale price, it's actually what the market value would probably bring.
Yes, but he
As of
did say he
November.
based it, without being rude, Commissioner, he did say they also base it on sale price too.
Mr. Chair,
But
That's
they-
what Shannon just said.
But they,
Right, it's
Even though it's
accumulation of all the
lower-
sales.
Even though it's lower at this time, at 717, yeah.
well,
I
have a
don't know if
couple
you
of
could buy a
questions.
house, the same house at 750
Okay.
today, and maybe I'm wrong, so,
okay, Mr. Laster has the floor.
sorry.
I have a couple of questions. And so if you don't mind, and it's responding to what the applicant put in here on about the mill levy. He wanted a couple of questions answered. The applied mill levy for 2023 property taxes, he wanted that question answered. It's not possible to answer that question because our budget's not done, so we can't even remotely come to that answer for you.
Correct. That's part of what I've learned since I first wrote my appeal. But since there's a very narrow window to write the appeal,
Yeah, okay, good.
I do
'Cause-
appreciate you calling that to attention, and I have learned that piece of information, so thank you.
And so the ratio about your district, when, and I've had Shannon sit down and talk to me, and I think we've got it down in one of his presentations to make it easier. It doesn't, if, and I'm going to run through it real fast. If your property was valued at $200,000 one year, and the next year it was valued at $700,000, if we don't change our budget, your taxes aren't going to change. Your taxes that you pay on that property are not going to change. It's just not going to happen. But because we do increase our budget, that's whenever your property tax changes. That's when you pay more from the county. We've got the numbers. We can show it. Shannon actually created a slide to communicate that to the community when we went out in the community to discuss that with them so that people could understand this, because there's always a misunderstanding that my value went up, so my taxes are going to go up. Nope, it's all what we do during the budget season. But my point being is why did you buy your home for $750,000 if you don't believe that it's valued at that? And I'm just asking a plain and simple question, because I think they did fair by bringing you back down to 717,800.
So there is and I think a number of people have actually referenced it, what's called opportunity cost and opportunity timing. So at the time that we purchased the home, that was our first purchase in the community, first purchase in Rapid City, we were actually asked to leave our home. So we were pushed into a situation of timing that we needed to do it. It was in our foresight. We believed that we were on the cusp of interest rates rising dramatically, and they have. So based on those factors, we determined that while we may be paying more than we should for a property, as far as its true value, there's the opportunity cost, so timing. And we didn't buy the property for the purpose of trying to dramatically increase the value one day, sell it within a year, 2 years. We bought the property because after 7 years in Rapid City, we determined this is home. This is where we are going to raise our family and support a community, be part of a community. So my question here, is it the commissioner? Is that correct, Commissioner? I want to reference.
Are you talking about Shannon?
Is that the commissioner? Sorry. So you referenced that the valuation date being 11/1, and one of the comp properties was on 11/9 that the sale transaction happened, and that was one of the most, I guess, clear examples of what has happened to the market value.
What comp property, where?
So that would be the comp property at 6125 Cloud Peak. So
Shannon,
I'm sorry,
tell
I
him-
deviated
tell
from
him
your
who you are.
questions. I apologize for that.
He thinks you're a commissioner.
So, no, I'm just,
Equalization.
Equalization.
I
He is-
definitely don't want to be mistaken for a commissioner. Director of
so,
Equalization,
how about a first name?
Shannon.
Okay, can I call you by your first name?
Yes.
All right, Shannon, thank you. So yes, the property at 6125, that was a property that was originally listed closer to 700,000. And after 5 or 6 months, they finally had to take a sale at 610,000.
Okay. So
And that date fits with the county's assessment. And so that's where I'm wondering how much of true market value and comparable sales are being compared, or is there more of a heavy bias towards last purchase price paid?
it is what I said earlier. It's one sale in all of the sales we look at. But if that took place after the assessment date, that was not used to set values for the current year. It'll be a sale we'll look at for next year, but you could find another sale on October 31st, to your same point, right near the assessment date. But every sale is just one sale. One sale is an indication of the market, but we have 2,000 sales we look at every year. And all 2,000 are used to set the valuations.
Okay, Mr. Laster, you still have the floor.
Nah, right now I'm good.
Okay, Mr.
Mr. Chair, when you establish the market value of a residence, you go to the market. Our county assessor went to the market, and he found 5 comparable sales that they felt were comparable. They weren't equal, so they equalized them by adjusting for square footage and location and site area. And in the appraisal industry, the way I do it is I look at the unit value. That's our unit of measure. What did your house sell for on a square foot basis? And so I'm looking at these comparable sales, what they sold for on a per square foot basis. Now your last sale was used for market evidence. And like Shannon said, we don't want to use that. We need to support that, so we use 4 others. When you say opportunity cost, I understand that. Did you have to fill out a certificate of value when you bought your home and send it to the county assessor to make sure that that information was correct? That certificate of value would say, this is what I paid for the real estate. And you could say, well, hey, somebody threw in a Ford Falcon, so we got to deduct that. I only paid $740 for the real estate. But if you sign that certificate of value, you are certifying that you paid $750,000 for that. When you mention opportunity cost, that might be an outlier, but when there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of sales that opportunity cost is involved, then that becomes the market. And so when I look at these 5 sales and I add the unit prices and divide it by the 5, I come up with an average of $444 a square foot. And at 717.8, you're at $460. So I would say that I don't see anything outlandish here. It seems to be, everything seems to be in place relative to using these 5 cells as the strongest value indicators.
So Matt, hopefully you learned a little bit from Shannon today while he was here. You know, when I look at this, you know, my comment is a lot of times when you go to the local board, you know, it's just kind of a passer. They deal with more of their heart. And you have a good point. There's a lot of different stuff that you brought up. I mean, I think when you paid $750 at the market at that time, houses people were bidding, paying more than what their asking prices were. But that's as the opportunity as you want. I think our equalization office did good when they assess them. I mean, they're looking at the comparable sales, and as Shannon says, you know, this year, if something happens in November when they do the assessments, yes, values will go back down, and we will assess values. And let me tell you, some people, we'll get a bunch of people coming in saying, hey, they're selling their house at that time. It's worth more than what you got it down here for, you know. So the market adjusts itself. I understand your point on the interest rates. Yes, that affects buyers and sellers. That's why real estate goes up and goes down, and they reassess. But I think they did an honest job, and I think Lisa did a good job of doing the comparables, and I think her recommendations is fair. I mean, that's under what you paid for it, but I understand you're doing some other comparables right now, but I think her assessment is fair.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Lester.
unless I missed it, Lisa, if you don't mind telling me, what was the market adjustment that you made? Originally, it came in at 724, and then you said 717.8. What was the adjustment that you decided was not taken into account?
We had 2 fireplaces and there was only one, so it was like a $7,000 difference.
Okay.
So Chairman,
Ms. Adcock.
so Matt, do you pay, so for insurance purposes, you pay on a $750,000 house?
No. I pay on replacement cost. Replacement cost.
Okay. So you don't do it for the assessment value or higher?
No, it's for replacement cost.
Okay. Do you have a replacement cost over 750, right?
No.
Really? Okay.
Mr. Chair,
I just thought people did, man. I'm not laughing at you, that's a bad thing. I just thought people always, if it was assessed or if it was put at 612 even, or even 630, that you would at least put your insurance costs, up that high that would be your replacement, right?
Yes, there's always personal property that gets rolled into that as well with
Right,
your
the
homeowners.
personal, yeah, but I
Yes.
just meant the structure, because they put structure and insurance difference from personal belongings.
Correct. Structure insurance, of course, in a catastrophic loss, you would not lose the land. So that does,
Right. And the land, yeah,
correct.
that's right.
Yep.
So the building,
Yep.
so you take the land. Okay, I got you.
Thank you,
Matt.
Ms. Adcock. Mr. Ross.
I'm going to make the motion to approve staff's recommendation, $89,300 for the land, $628,500 for the improvements, for a total of $717,800.
Second.
A motion by Ross Connect and a second by Laster. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, Motion carries.
Thank you, Matt.
So Matt,
Thank you, Matt.
Again, thank you all for your time and for allowing me to be a part of the appeals process.
Absolutely.
For learning as we go, even things like understanding timing of the mill rating. And my apologies to the rest of the participants here whom I have delayed. Thank you for the discussion.
thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Matt.
Paula Wilson?
Okay, Sean.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sean Holloway, Department of Equalization here at Pennington County. We're here for tax ID number 52165 and 67603. Owner Paula Wilson, physical address 13779 Rodeo Road out in the Necchio Pine Grove area. This should be fairly short and sweet. It is over land values and has mostly been discussed already a couple weeks ago by Scott. I did include 3 comparables of land values out there for you. But of the 2 properties, one is a 22-acre parcel valued at $28,000 an acre, and another is a 10-acre parcel currently at $37.5 an acre. My recommendation is no change on the 22-acre parcel and a 20% functional for lack of access on the 10-acre parcel, which is directly north. Other than that, with it being just land values, I don't really have much else for you.
So Sean, when you're saying 20% functional for access, that's reduced, that's the numbers that you already given us is already,
This is my recommendation, sir.
oh,
It's currently at $37.5 an acre for 10
okay,
acres, which is comparable to everything else that has been valued out there. The sales are showing $40,000 an acre for 10-acre parcels.
okay, so your 37 is at 20%,
37 is what it's currently at. With a 20% reduction, it brings it down to 30 an acre.
30.
30,000.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Roskinek.
can you put a GIS map so I can see where this is at? Because if it's where I think it's at, you know what my answer is going to be.
That's why.
Okay.
That's why this is relatively short and sweet, sir.
Okay. I'm just trying to be consistent the
I
way we're
understand.
treating other people in that area.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So this parcel should be the 22-acre plot with directly north of it being that 10-acre parcel.
Okay, so can you go to there's to the east of that, there's 4 10-acre lots. Can you go to the 2 that are to the far east on Rodeo? So the first one would be on the corner of Hart Ranch and Rodeo. Nope,
Yeah.
other side, east.
Far right. Corner of Hart Ranch and Rodeo.
Okay, 4 lots from the subject to the east. So
More.
last week, I questioned the 37.5 for those 2 lots. And so last Saturday, I got permission from the owner, and I went and looked at the 2 lots. And I suggested 25,000 for those. They were assessed at 37.5. And the reason I went with the 25,000, because I didn't go north into a brand-new subdivision that have covenants, is that you got to have a 3,600 square foot footprint to build the house. I went to the east off of Pine Grove, and I went to west off of, I went west to Pine Grove, then east in Hart Ranch West subdivision. And I saw market evidence that was more in that 21, 22, 23,000. And so we did agree to lower those 2 lots to 25,000 because we felt that was more comparable to the market evidence in that immediate area than going north to Sudbury. And I'm going to have to stick to my guns on this one too. If this is, if we're in the same area, Rodeo Drive, and it's a 20-acre parcel, based on the economy of scale, if something sells, 10 acres sells for 2,000 an acre, well, you can assume that 20 acres is going to sell for something less just based on the economy of scale. So
Right.
you're recommending 37.5 minus 20% on the subject property?
Yeah, no, not on one of the subject properties. So there are two in question here. One of them is a 22-acre parcel, which is already valued at 28,000 an acre. And that 10-acre parcel, which is directly north, for a lack of access, we would need about 550 feet of dirt work done to that. So about a 20% reduction brings it from a 37.5 per acre down to 30 an acre.
I would agree to the 25,000 an acre on that, just based on the size, minus the access issue. Because it's imperative that you have access if you're going to be able to build a home.
Yeah, yes, sir. For the same reasons that you're standing by your word, we as an office are also
And I'm
standing
doing
by
that
our
just to be
word.
consistent. Well,
Yeah,
that's what the
absolutely.
market's telling me, number one. And number two is to be consistent the way we've treated the neighbors to the east.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Lester.
maybe I didn't ask the question the right time last time, but south of that area, which is considered a lower valued area, what are the homes selling, or what are the land values in those areas south of that?
I can tell you, Commissioner, the 20-acre parcels due south of there, there's three of,
First you need to
I'm
recognize
sorry,
yourself.
Mr. Commissioner, Mike Wilson, I'm married to Paula.
Okay,
I
Mike.
live at 13779 Rodeo Road. Directly answer your question, Commissioner, there are three 20-acre parcels on, immediately south of this house on the street, escapes me now. They are assessed at 18,100. The 20-acre pieces are. The 10-acre pieces are assessed at 26. That's in the road district is Knotty Pine Road District, and Sean, can you tell me the name of the street? Do you remember the name of the street? Stone Ridge. Stone Ridge, which is in neighborhood 30.5. The 10-acre pieces down there are assessed at 26 and change. The 20-acre pieces are assessed at 18 because of what Commissioner Ross Connect referred to as the economies of scale. The larger pieces are assessed at a lower value per acre than the smaller pieces.
Right. So, last time I stayed against everybody because I felt that y'all had done your due diligence on those properties because of the comparable sales. So what am I missing this time around? I mean, I thought we had comparable sales that showed and property values that showed 35, 37, 39,000 an acre.
We do, and I provided three of those, two of those in the last year, and one of them all the way back to 2021. We have the comparables that show it, and we as an office are going to stay consistent with our recommendation of no change in a 20% functional for the one with lack of access.
Roger that.
Mr. Chair.
Oh, I
Go
got,
ahead.
Ms.
So,
Atka.
just a question, isn't this didn't we just have this, one of these parcels in on, planning? Is this the area that always has the 40-unit rule and some other stuff going on in these areas? Or am I in the wrong?
I think further south, there's an 18-acre piece in front of Planning, Commissioner.
I think that was on Pine Grove to the west.
And, yeah, and that,
I thought it was that Barney.
I thought it was over by, yeah, Pine, where we're at now, where that Rodeo Drive, kind of that access area in there. And again, I thought it had a 40, you could build because there's a 40-unit rule there and some other stuff going on. Does that affect it at all? If you guys look at what planning department and things do where you can't, they won't let you build anything else until we get second access and stuff, does that come in consideration in equalization?
We strictly look at the market and what the market is telling us.
But Commissioner Hancock, if you don't mind, if it's already platted, they can build on it. It's only whenever they're trying to plat it down to more density is when we have the issues that we have. If it was already platted and there was not a home on it and they wanted to get a home, they can get a building permit on that. It's just whenever they're trying to split it to put another home in there, that's when we do that.
Right, I understand, but
And at
is
that
it,
point,
is
the
this
conditions
platted?
of the sale change in how we value that property, right? So if we're going from a 10-acre parcel down to 5 2-acre parcels, it's going to be assessed differently than
Right,
than
because
this.
it's gonna,
Correct.
looks like it's
It's
gonna be sold, or
different.
it's gonna, yes.
Yeah, it's going to sell differently.
Okay. And sir, Mr. Wilson, is this platted yet?
I think Lot 1 of the Branch subdivision, it was platted 20-something years ago. That's the 22-acre piece. I think
Okay.
I think that's the legal on it, Lot 1 of Branch subdivision. I think the piece to the south is 18 acres. I think that's Lot 2. The 10-acre piece is not really platted. It was just conveyed to me by the northerly neighbor in 2013 for 13,000 and change an acre. It wasn't platted, it was just described as the south half of the south half of whatever quarter it was, so,
They call it elegant description,
yes, yes.
quarter.
So,
And can I ask another question? And did we reduce the people, the 4 10-acre parcels from 37 to 25, the other,
We did,
I apologize.
not all four, but the two to the one that's highlighted and the one to the west, we reduced those.
To
And just to
25.
make sure that I was comparing apples to apples and oranges to oranges, I got permission to drive on those two, the one that's highlighted. And I just saw steep topography, very dense timber, maybe no view, no covenants. No, they did have access to Pine Grove water. Then I drove up to Sudbury Ranch. You're comparing apples to oranges when you start comparing. If you want to take a drive with me, I'll take you up there. You're comparing apples to oranges when you go and use the Sudbury Ranch. It's just a totally different environment, totally different market. So what I did is I went and found my comparable market evidence in the immediate area where the subject property is, to the east and to the west. And that market told me 21, 22, 23,000. So I'm suggesting that this 10-acre piece is should be valued for assessment purposes at 25,000. And then I'll go along with your 20% deduction off of that for the poor access.
I would then turn to my comparable sales report, and if you look at Comp 1, you'll see a 20-acre parcel that sold in 2021 on July 19th for 1.4 on neck yoke, which is nowhere near the Sudbury area.
Well, the problem is I can't deviate from motions that we've already made. I mean,
I understand, sir.
I'm trying to stay consistent.
I understand, sir, and I'm just also trying
Right.
to say,
I mean, I can go out there and find some really crazy sales.
yes, sir.
just for clarifications, we are on tax ID 52165-67603.
Is that the
And that's-
22 or the 10-acre, Lloyd?
Well, we've got both of them on there, the 22 and the 10 acre. This is
Have a
just the
motion?
land.
You're doing one at a time though, right?
Yes,
For number purposes.
yes, the 22.17 acres at 28,042, and the 10-acre at 25,000, yes.
Would that be 25 less the 20% for the
No.
access?
No, it'd just be the 25.
No, help,
He already reduced it from, where's it at now? It was from 28, and then the 20% off of your assessment.
That
Right.
was just my recommendation for this appeals process, ma'am.
so 51265, your motion was what? Deb?
Am I doing something wrong here? The 22.17 acres, 54293000012. Nope, that's the wrong one.
52165.
52165 is
Still haven't
22.17
been hit
acres
again.
valued at $621,700,
You got it.
which is 28,000 an acre.
Okay, so the 28,000 an acre for the first one is what I wanted.
67603, which is a 10-acre parcel directly
Yes,
north.
that was the one I wanted instead of 28,000.
We
an
have this
acre.
currently valued at 37.5. My recommendation was a 20% functional for lack of access, bringing it to 30,000 an acre.
Okay, and mine was to take it from 30 to 25.
Okay.
So the first one I was in agreement, and the second one, because of the others, was 25. Okay, sorry, I needed
So your
to.
motion, 51265 is 28,000 an acre, and for the second one, we'll do that separate. So let's just work on 51265. Is it?
So
Mr.
can you guys
Chair.
give that to us
Hold
in
on,
numbers?
I don't have a second one, excuse me?
Will you just make sure that for our purposes that we know the total, like if it's six, not the per acre, we need the
Yeah,
total
we need the
amount?
total number. But right now, I haven't got a second yet.
So is it, okay,
I need to know what the totals are.
22.75 at 28,042 acres is what, Sean?
I'm sorry, ma'am.
What is the amount on that?
On on 22.17,
Yes, sir. At 20
$621,700.
Okay,
And that's just land, correct?
That is, that's
That's
a
the
no
total
change.
amount.
That's an effective no change.
no change.
No
It's
change.
an
Right?
effective no change to parcel
So
52165.
there is land and structure, because we need that broken up.
That's land only.
That's land only?
No,
It
I'm
says right here was assessed 28,042 acre land only and 10 acre.
I'm sorry, you have me confused now.
Yeah, I'm a little confused because
Okay.
State the value of the land and the building and the total.
Value of the land is $621,700. Value of the building is $809,900, yeah.
for a
And
total,
then for a total of 1.431,600.
600, and that would be 52165, 1,431,600 at his 28,
Effective and no change recommendation.
Right.
is what-
okay.
Mr.
is
Chair.
that your motion?
Oh, no, hold on.
I second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second, basically for 51265 for no change,
Correct.
correct? Mr. Roskinek?
May I
Before
be
I vote
heard,
on that,
may
I
I be
want-
heard, Mr. Chairman, before you take action?
We're not taking action. We've got a motion and a second, and I'm taking comment. So,
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Roskinek, and then I'll come back to you.
But Mr. Chair, if the land's the issue, and I think we're on the same page as the 10, but let's look at the 22.17 acre parcel before we even know what we're voting on put it on the
did.
GIS map.
I did,
I didn't.
explained it to us. Sean did.
Because if we agree at 25,000 on the 10 acre, let's see where it is in conjunction with the 22.17 acres. That just makes sense. So can we put that GIS map up?
See, on my paperwork, I don't have it separated out with the land and the house. All I've got is 22.17.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, we're just appealing on the land, not appealing on the structures.
Not the structure. He wants the land to be
Wanna-
20
Yeah,
If I agree
something
on the
instead of
28,000.
28
okay.
This is the 22
acre
per
one.
parcel.
Okay, I can agree with that.
Okay. Do you have a comment, sir?
I have quite a few, actually.
Mike?
Okay,
Yes, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
So, Mike, you understand the motion on the floor right now is for no change?
Is for no change on the 22 acres
Yeah.
at 28,000 and change.
yes.
When the neighborhood properties that are half the size are less than that. When the original assessment came out, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, the 22 acres was assessed at 28,000 per acre. The 10 acres was at 37.5, like all the 10-acre pieces in the neighborhood. The ratio between the small and the large was $1 for the small pieces, 75 cents for the big pieces. In other words, the larger pieces were 75% of the smaller pieces. 28,000 is about 75% of 37.5. So the larger piece, in our judgment, should be less than 25,000 per acre, which is what the two long, skinny vertical pieces you did on March 11, as well as Mark Kirkaby's property that's kitty corner across that intersection, and one property, one parcel to the west. There were four of them, 4 10-acre pieces set at 25,000 per acre at your April 11 meeting. The 22-acre piece is a lot like there's 3 20-acre pieces due south of me that are 18,000 an acre, not 28. They're 18,000 an acre. So for one, The larger piece ought to be 75% of what you've said is the standard for the neighborhood is 25,000 per 10-acre piece. 75% of that on a ratio is about 18,500. I think it's 18,860 on the 22-acre piece. That would keep those same ratios intact. That would be comparing apples and apples in this neighborhood. So those are my comments on the 22-acre piece, why it ought to be at about 18,000, like the three 20-acre pieces, the first of which you can see, it's kitty corner to the southeast of those 10-acre pieces that are north and south, those four of them, and it's on Stone Ridge Drive. There's three 20-acre pieces right there. I could probably hit a golf ball to them from the corner of my property on a good day. And they were at 18,000 per acre, not 28. So for those, just a comment on Sudbury Ranch. I know that is, I got to tell you, commissioners, your staff has been nothing but professional, competent, courteous, patient, like Mark Kirkeby said in his comments. What we have here is just a disagreement about whether Sudbury Ranch ought to infect for value all these other pieces down here. The value of the improvements on these little parcels down here is about 400,000 per parcel. On Triple S, on Heart Ranch Road West, and on Rodeo, the average of the improvements on this property is 400. On the 7 pieces that are developed up there on Sudbury Ranch, the average improvements is 900,000. Those improvements up there will carry a $400,000 price tag on a bare lot next to it. It will not do it here. And that's the basis for the $28,000 assessment of my 22 acres. So for that reason, I believe that the fair assessment of the 22 acres is $18,750 per acre. And on the 10-acre piece just due north, which we'll come to, I'll come to that when that's addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mike. Sir, just for a little bit of clarification, sometimes, we're human. And sometimes one meeting has different production than the next because we learn stuff in between. So things could change. So
I appreciate that.
I just wanted to make that just because we did things one day, we got more information or learned something and commission could change their mind.
We
So I just
appreciate
wanted
that,
to
of course.
clarify that. Ms. Haggett.
So Sean, Mr. Wilson is doing comparables. So he's saying different on different properties. On your comparables, why was Mr. Wilson's more again? Tell me one more time.
I'm sorry, ma'am. Could you rephrase that?
Why was Mr. Wilson's 28,000 and the rest were 18 and others? Where did you do the comparables in order to come up with the 28,000 an acre?
I took his acreage and divided it by our assessed value on the land. That's how I came up with how we have it assessed. That was my 28,000 an acre, is where I came up with that.
So tell me what you did.
We have his land value currently assessed at $621,700.
Okay.
I took that number, divided it by 22.17. Comes out to 28,000 and some change per acre.
Okay, and you do that for every one of those properties that are around there?
I did that for this so you could get a grasp as to hit in comparison to his argument.
Okay, and how about the other ones on comp 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5?
It's 600,000 assessed for 20 acres. Divide that out, what is it, 28, I believe, still?
Okay.
Should be 28. And then as the sales showed us, when you move into smaller parcels, the 10-acre parcels were selling for more, so they are assessed at more. And that's why they're assessed at 37.5.
Is 10 acres and 5 acres assessed for more because basically you believe that they're going to sell for more because they're going to build on it, or because they're platted? Why are they so? Tell me again why you say 5 and 10 acres are worth more.
Because they're selling for more. Nothing we do is based on any of our beliefs. It's all based on what the market is telling us and what the sales are telling us through verified sales, through the MLS, and through the title companies.
Wow, so then me putting the other one at 25 is wrong because you could get more for a 5 or 10 acre. Except you guys don't, do you take in topography of how much land can be used if there's cliffs and there's ravines or anything based on square footage that way? Does Mr. Wilson's have more topography issues? Or does maybe the $18 a square foot or whatever, does that have more topography issues? That's why it's 18 instead of 28? I mean,
I can't speak personally on Mr. Wilson's property. As far as I know, there is no topography issues. We didn't discuss any when we were talking about his property. We have, in the past and with specific parcels, imposed reductions based on topography, but usually it's based on unbuildability,
Okay.
unusability.
okay. I appreciate that, Sean,
Yes,
for
ma'am.
your
Okay.
answer, sir.
We do have a motion on the floor for
Chairman,
52165 with no change. Mr.
I'd
Drews.
offer a substitute motion to value those that acres at 22.5 for a total of 450,000. I didn't look to see if it's an exact 20 acres.
I'll second that for discussion.
So we have a substitute motion with a second and changing the land value to 450,000,
Correct.
which comes out to how much per acre?
22.5.
22.5. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Mr.
It is
Drews.
22.17 acres, just.
It's
So
how much?
It's 22.17.
Okay, so it'd be 22.5 times the 22.17?
22.17, it should come out to 498,825.
So 499.
So yeah, 499.
499.
Yeah. So, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Drews.
So I think, basically in consideration of what we did last week, and I don't think we took those properties, the land properties down below what they should have been at the 25,000. And I agree, I think that a larger parcel such as this would bring less per acre. And so that's why I'm suggesting the 22.5 per acre on it.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, the only thing I wanted to point out, is that the highlighted sale up there, I always look at, Deb mentioned topography, and another important thing as an appraiser is that I look at the ratio of timber canopy to meadow.
Thank you.
And just looking at that without actually inspecting it, that's look, in that aspect, it's a very favorable piece of property. I don't know what the topography is like, but that's,
Since they're not getting.
these 10-acre pieces that I suggested 25,000 for, they're heavily timbered, no view, and no open meadow whatsoever. So that's where the highlighted one has a bit of an advantage over the 10-acre parcels that we talked about last week.
I promise.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Laster.
Sean, so just refresh everyone here because as we make any adjustments, that doesn't equalize it with all the other properties that are valued there. And I thought I heard Mr. Wilson say that other 10-acre properties in the area were going or had a value of 37.5. I just want to make sure that that's correct. That other properties in the area are valued, the 10-acre properties are valued at 37.5. And if they are and we reduce this down to 25,000, then the disbursement, once we set the budget and the levy, then he's actually going to be paying a proportionally lower tax value on that property than everybody else in the area. It's actually going to raise the tax burden on those in the area because the value is not equalized across the board. And that's the thing that's the purpose of the equalization office, is to make sure that the value is appropriate across the board so that no individual property owner is getting a benefit and significant tax reduction unless there's a reason for that.
So this is 28.
You are correct,
That's
sir.
what your, Sean put it at for
Mr.
equalization.
No, we got the substitute.
On this one, Sean did do 28, yes, but
Yeah, that's one we're talking on.
So, yeah, he's referring to the 10-acre parcels that are currently valued at 37.5 an acre. And yes, there are current 10-acre parcels that are still Even after appeals 2 weeks ago, still valued at 37.5. In our adjustments in how we value land, we noticed that in this market, larger parcels were selling for less per acre. So this one is assessed at 28,000 per acre because that's what they were selling for. Now, the 10-acre parcels were selling upwards of 40,000 an acre, and we have an
Yeah.
assessed value of 37.5.
That was my mistake, Deb. I was looking at this sheet, which had them both on there going together. Really, we're working on 52165.
Yep, for the 28,000.
And
That's the
that's,
land in the house, so
that's my apologies, sir. I figured same taxpayer. My mistake.
yeah,
My bad.
and that was my top sheet, so that's what I was going by.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Drew?
we still are talking about the 22 acre parcel, not the 10 acre parcel.
Yes, we're gonna do the 10-acre parcel after this one,
Yes,
so
I got you.
we want to get through this. My comment is, I kind of understand on the next one, but, we're actually going lower than we did last week, which I would struggle with on that one. That's my comment. I don't know,
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Lass.
I think I agree with Ron on this particular property. It's more valuable. It's more desirable because it doesn't have that heavy canopy. So I think it is kind of ringing in at that 28,000 per acre as the original recommendation by the equalization.
Okay, so what we do is we have two motions, sir, on the floor, so, or not, we have one motion on the floor for 22.5.
That's a substitute, and the other one was.
Yeah, the substitute motion was 22,500, which would be 499 for land, 809,900 for the structure, with a total of 1,308,900. And this is on item number 52165. Got that, Kara?
Yep, got it.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna vote on that one at this point in time. Is there any further discussion from the commission on this?
Motion on the floor is 2217 times 22,500
Yes,
for the larger parcel.
yes.
Yes, it's the 22.5, it's the total 499,000 for the land, 809,900 for the structure, with a total, my total comes up to 1,308,900.
Mine too.
Okay, so that's the motion on the floor. Let's do roll call vote.
Hadcock?
No.
Ross Connect?
Yes.
Drews?
Yes.
Lassiter?
No.
LaCroy?
No. So motion fails. Now we go back to the original motion
From Commissioner Hadcock.
from Commissioner Hadcock, which was basically a no change at 28.
Right. At 1,431,600, Miss Kara. Yep.
So with the no change, the land would be 621,700, and the structure would be 809,900, and total would be 1,431,600. Any further discussion? My comment would be is I don't know if I would support the 28 after last week. I would support the 25. That's my comment. We'll do a roll call vote.
Hadcock?
Aye.
Ross Connect?
Nay.
Drews?
No.
Lassiter?
Yes.
And LaCroy?
No.
Mr. Chair, can I make motion?
Okay.
Can I make the 25,000 an acre for the 22.17? You want that in a total number?
Yes, I want the totals.
Let me do that real quick. $554,250.
So 554,300, rounded off, right?
Yeah.
554,300 for land, 809,900 for structure. And what's that come out to? I know there's people faster at than I am.
I get 1,364,200. If that's,
Say that again, Karen?
I get 1,364,200. So
That's what I get as well.
136, what'd you get?
oh, I'm sorry, 1,364,200.
Yep, that's what I got. Okay. So we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second for land at 554, 300, which comes out to 25,000 per acre. Structure 809, 900, with total of $1,364,200. There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Hadcock,
No.
Ross Connect,
Yes.
Drews,
Yes.
Lassiter,
Nope.
LaCroy.
Aye.
Okay, yay.
Motion passes. So that brings us to item number 67603, which is the 10-acre property. And this one, Sean, you're talking about the 20% off for lack of access. So would that bring that down to 300,000 from 375?
Yes, sir.
That'd be my motion.
So we have a motion to,
300?
for 300,000 and a second. Any discussion? Did you want to make any more comments, sir?
Just that there's 4 pieces within hundreds of feet of this piece that you have assessed at 25,000 per acre, and they all have access. This one's got no road going to it. To keep consistency, this number ought to be 200,000, not 300,000. It
Chairman.
ought to be assessed at 25 with a 20% reduction,
Okay,
respectfully.
okay, Ms. Hadcock.
So Chairman, I wasn't there at the meeting. I was on vacation. Based on equalization and equality, it was dropped to 25. But Sean, who's done this a lot longer, most of us, in our equalization department, in this case, I don't know if those should have been dropped to 25, based on what we just heard, that 10 acres and 5 acres actually sell for more. We just did this parcel for 25, and then want to drop the other one to 25, the same thing, which then, I guess your 22.5 would work, but no, I can't agree with that at this time.
Mr. Chair.
Based on equalization, we just said, when you equalize, you do comparables by sales, do it by square footage. Some is topography, some is other things Sean had said, but obviously he said he had looked at all this and that what the comparables around it are 37.5. So to drop this down, I don't mind 30. I think 30 is pretty fair. Those are my comments.
Mr. Chair.
So just to clarify, the motion on the floor is for the 300,000.
For
Okay.
30,000.
Okay, just
30.
clarification.
Yep.
Mr. Roskinek.
I just want to clarify that the 25,000 is based on actual market evidence, actual comparable sales within 3,500 feet to the west that I personally inspected, and one to the east that I personally inspected. They sold well below 25,000. When I said 25,000 for those two 10-acre parcels, I was being very conservative with it. So that's where I got the 25,000. I mean, I used actual market evidence. I did not go 1 mile north in the Sudbury Ranch Estates and use comparable sales that were not similar whatsoever, other than the fact that we're talking about land. And with that being so, I'm just saying that I do a lot of research, and I don't come up. I think that 25,000 is very fair. And if you're going to sell a piece of real estate and you tell them that you don't have access, you're going to have a very negative impact on the market interest in that particular piece of property.
So Chairman.
Ms.
Nash.
Hadcock.
So Sean, Mr. Roskinek said he had personally inspected. He's not an equalization person. He is an appraiser. So what's the difference between an appraiser and a person that does equalization? Why do you come up with the difference You do, because you're doing equalization, if I'm correct, right? You did the other parcels around there. Did you do the other parcels and you looked at them personally, or you just looked at, how did you come up with your comparables?
We look at the sales over the last 3 years. From those sales, we determine what parcel size is selling for. From there, we make adjustments based on other parcel sizes that are selling. And so I understand if you don't want to use Sudbury Ranch Road, if you go to the packet, MLS number 157476, Neck Yoke Road, 400,000, 10 acres.
Can you blow that up a little bit? I'm going to show you the comparable sales that I used. I'll just, okay. This was a comparable sale. 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 I didn't have to go a mile north. And those all sold within the last 3 years for less than 25,000. So as an appraiser in good conscience, I thought 25,000 for the subject. And these were my two that I looked at.
Yeah, I apologize, sir.
Similar to the ones I just pointed out.
Yeah, I don't want you to feel like I'm personally going after you. I'm just following the sales and doing my job.
Okay, so I'm not personally going after them either, but when you say personally inspected, I don't know if you've been on the other side of the equalization, but because you personally did something, maybe you should personally have talked to some of the appraisers ahead of time if some of that was some of those issues, instead of coming up here and saying you personally inspected. I think it's embarrassing for the other side to listen
Okay.
to what you know and they know.
Let's-
I'm not trying to be mean, Lloyd, but
No.
we've done this every freaking year.
Let's
So
just stick to the,
we are. We are, because somebody says personally inspected because he's in a certified appraiser. I've heard this since I've been on here, and we have equalization people here that are trying to friggin' do their jobs. How come we can't bring this together in some kind of fashion beforehand to say, okay, you've done those comparables, I've done these, and then we compromise, which is not what equalization is. It's about comparable sales. It's not compromising, it's doing equal. So the other people that we decided not to equalize, I'm not trying to be mean, Ron, but the other sense is, what about the other areas? So everybody in there, to equalize them, I think now Sean should go over there and say it's 25,000 based on personally appraisals in the area, and then we dropped everybody else's. Because that's what's gonna happen next year. To be personally knowing this from all these times, it's going to jack your prices back up because he has to equalize it back to where it was. So either way, okay, so you save for a year. We know this, Lloyd. We've been here 100 years. That it's going to go back up next year because he has to equalize it without sounding mean or crabby like I'm sounding. Sorry, and I apologize. 25,000. You're going to get away with it a year, okay? And then after that, he has to do equalization. So you can be the appraiser, you can be the inspector, you can be whoever you are. But what's going to happen next year, because we were nice this year, because he looked at 3 other properties, that he's going to have to go back out and equalize it up to 37.5 next year. So that's only being equally fair to everybody in the area, not just 4 or 5 properties.
Mr. Chair.
okay, hold on. Mr. Lassiter.
So I have a question, and I'm looking at this, and you say you don't have access to that property. It's right next to your property. Why don't you plat it in so it's all part of your property? You get more acreage, and then you actually
Excuse me.
reduce your overall value because it's multiple acres. And I say that I would argue that you don't technically not have access to that because your property is right next to it, so you do have access to it. So I think he's giving you a bonus by giving you a reduction in that. But if you're right next to it, why not plat it all in, and then you get another reduction for having more acreage?
Because my tax assessment this year gave me real motivation to do that. My land more than doubled this year.
I can understand why.
So I went to planning, actually, and I talked to a nice fellow there about doing just that. The 30 acres just north of me is assessed at 23,000. So I would expect that if apples are going to be apples, then that would be what my 32 ought to be also. My wife, the owner of the property, would like to say something.
Ma'am.
I'm Paula Wilson.
Paul.
Can I speak?
Yep, Paula.
Nothing against you, Commissioner, but
You're okay, honey.
if you do drive out there, you do get a sense that we're comparing apples to oranges, like, we are not like Hart Ranch or that new subdivision. This is an old subdivision, and the homes and the land is way different than the Hart Ranch area. So I am glad that Commissioner Ross Connect went out there, because it is so different. I guess, I just wanted to say that. Sometimes it's important, you can look at this map, but if you go out there, the, the value is completely different than this new subdivision or those big homes on Hart Ranch. That's what I wanted to say.
Mr. Chair,
Thank you. Mr. Rosker, I'm going to make a comment before I go back to
Okay.
you for a second time. I'm, on this matter, I'm going to be consistent with what I did. I may be agreeable and disagreeable with some, but the president's been set at 25, so I'm going to stick with that as far as where I'm going. So just to let everybody know. Now I'll go back to Mr. Roskinek.
I guess the point that I wanted to make out is last week I did go to the Director of Equalization's office and I sat down with Trevor and I explained to him, I said, I would love for you to drive with me to the comparable sales that I looked at and the subject properties. And I discussed my point of view, so I'm not blindsiding anybody. I've been very transparent. I said, you call me anytime you want. I'm available. I just want that to be a public record.
Okay, motion on the floor is to keep it, is going with the recommendations from Sean at 20% lack of access comes out to 300,000. That is the motion on the floor. And we don't know what that percentage is per acre, but I do know it would be 250 if we went with what's happened in the past. So with that, we'll go with a roll call vote, Karen.
Hadcock?
We have the
Aye.
motion
Nope.
reread.
The motion on the floor is for 300,000.
Right.
The original assessment was 375, but with the 20% lack of access, then it comes up to 300,000
That's on the 10 acres.
on the 10 acres.
Okay.
Correct? And that was originally at 37,000.
Correct.
So
Okay.
the 375 was the original assessment, and then Sean recommended 20% for lack of access, which would bring it down to 300,000. And the motion on the floor is for the 300,000. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Mr.
earlier in this discussion, that motion was 25,000 and no adjustment for the 20%, which I could probably live with.
Okay. So the motion on the floor is 300,000. Any further discussion? Hearing none, do a roll call vote, please.
Hadcock?
Aye.
Ross Connect?
No,
Drews?
No.
Lassiter?
Aye.
LaCroy?
No.
Okay.
So that brings us back to,
Mr. Chair, I'll go ahead and make the motion of 25,000 with no adjustment for access issues for a total of 250,000.
okay, so we have a motion and a second from Drews for 250,000. Is there further discussion?
Chairman.
Ms. Hadcock?
So without sounding rude, what'll happen is they'll equalize it again next year, and it'll be different. So you might be seeing us again next year, which is fine.
Are you replat?
Just so you know, that's what usually happens, not because people are trying to be mean or anything, but they've done that in the past, and then people are like, okay, now you've got it 42% instead of 20 because they dropped it down. So your percentage will probably be higher, and your equalization will probably be different unless recession or something else comes in, Mr. Wilson. So not trying to be rude to you either, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Mr. Chair, one last comment.
Mr. Roskinek?
Also, the Department of Equalization is supposed to assess properties at 100% of market value. And we have to keep that in mind. And so I think that's what we're trying to do here. And if there's something out of alignment, maybe we should bring everything in the neighborhood down instead of jeopardizing a few and bringing them up. So, just food for thought.
Okay. Sean, you did a good job. Roll call.
Adcock,
No.
Ross Connect,
Yay.
Drews,
Yes.
Lassiter,
No,
LaCroy.
Aye.
Appreciate the time and consideration.
Okay, so we should be,
The Vinatieri's are next.
so I'm looking for Derek. Oh, go ahead.
Vinatieri.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, sir, I'm going to let Derek speak first, and then I'll recognize you.
Okay.
And before we get started, I just want to make sure that everyone has our board document with a tax ID of 11246.
Okay.
oh,
So everybody got
what,
that in
which
front of
one
them?
is it?
It's,
11246.
yes, 11246.
I don't think I have that one. For some reason, I've got, hold on, is it stuck to another one? Nope.
Comes Joan, she's going to help you.
Or yeah, I got another copy here too if need be.
That's all what we've gone through. This is what I have here. This is the one we just did. Oh, is it out of order? Haha, no, that was just, yeah. It was just out of order.
You have 2 packets, that's why.
Oh, is that what it was? 2 packets? Thank you.
Everybody find their paperwork?
I'm good.
Okay. Derek.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Derek Dalen. I'm an appraiser with Pennington County Equalization. The subject property we are talking about has a tax ID of 11246, and it is located at 1995 Samus Trail in Rapid City. And I would like to make a comment on that board document under the last sale price line. It has a 449,000 in January of 2005. This was the last open market sale of the property. Paul Vinatieri, he informed me that when they took ownership of the property, it was in 2010 for $300,000. And this was it wasn't an open market sale, it was a related party sale. And the amount they agreed upon was $300,000. And how they arrived at this value is 3 private appraisals were completed that led to that figure. So I wanted to make the board aware of that. Paul pointed that out and that information on your board document. That was the last open market sale. However, the property has changed hands and it came about in its current ownership at that time. So again, the property is off of Samus Trail. It's south of Rapid City off Highway 16, just east of the Moon Meadows Highway 16 intersection. And I am recommending that the 2023 assessed value of 879,100 be upheld, with a land value of 200,000 and structure value of 679,100. The property was initially assessed at 905,100. The Vinatieri's, they appealed that value. Interior and exterior inspection of the property was completed. Sales were reviewed. That's what led to that difference between that initial assessed value and the recommended value. The subject property, it's 4 bedrooms, 3.5 bathrooms, 4,268 square feet above ground. It has 1,560 square feet of total basement area. 340 square feet is finished in the basement, and it was built in 1960, and it sits on 4.8 acres. Because of the size, quality of construction, and the age of the subject property, comparable sales were considered throughout the county, essentially. We did have to look outside that neighborhood. And so more about comparable sales, they range in year built from 1946 to 1978. Above ground square footages range from 1,344 to 4,237 square feet. All the comparables have basements with finished areas except for Comp 1, that is on a slab. Comps 2 through 5 have finished basement areas ranging from 784 through 1,828 square feet. The subject property has a basement garage that accounts for some of that total basement area. And Comp 3 has a basement garage as well. Comps 1 and 4 have attached garages. 2 and 5 have detached garages. Garage sizes range from 690 through 1,624 square feet. And Comp 2, that does have 2 detached garages, so that square footage is higher for that reason. Deck and patio square footage, that ranges from 168 to 1,984. Then quality of construction for the comps, it ranges from average through very good minus. Then comparable sale prices, they range from 670,000 through 1.5 million. The most comparable sale on your grid there would be Comp 1. Although it is older than the subject, it's most comparable in above ground size and condition. It is located off Sturgis Road, and this property sold for $865,000 in August of 2021. Comparable sale number 5, this would be inferior to the subject since it is smaller, and it is similar in year built. It is also lesser quality of construction, average quality of construction versus good that the subject is in. And it is on more acreage. Comp 5, it is on more land than the subject. And comparable sale number 4, that would be an example of a property that is superior since it is newer, in better condition, sits on more land. This property is similar in overall size if you include the finished basement. And with Comp 5 being inferior to the subject and selling for less, and Comp 4 being superior and selling for more, those two sales bracket the subject property. And then I did want to, sorry, Paul, thank you. I wanted to touch on the land for the subject property. It's on 4.8 acres, but there is some pretty steep topography just out the rear of the home, kind of looking southwest. There's no adjustment to the land because of that topography since a house sits on it. There's a build site. There's no impact there versus and to make an adjustment for land, it would typically be bare land and there'd be expense or access topography considerations needed for an adjustment. And again, it's 4.8 acres and there's value with having space. And another consideration with the subject property is there's storage units that are scheduled to be built that are adjacent to the subject property. And with that, there's a sale similar to this future concern for the subject where a house sold that borders an existing storage unit. And from what our office found, this property sold and it was assessed right around that sale price without any adjustment. So that shows us, based off of that one sale anyway, that there was not an adjustment needed for proximity to two storage units. So again, I'm recommending that the assessed value of $879,100 be upheld, and that's land value of $200,000 and a structure value of $679,100 for a total of $879,100.
Mr. Chair.
Okay, hold on. Thank you, Derek. I think I heard Gary first, then I'll go.
Just a couple of questions to Derek. First of all, you said in Rapid City, but this is rural, is it not?
Right, yeah, it's south of Rapid City. It's outside city limits, or it's right on that border between
Okay.
county and city.
Okay. So on the part of the property you said is on that incline going down.
Yeah.
Do you know how much of that acreage would be on that incline?
I don't, but I bet Mr. Vinatieri knows.
4 acres
4 acres of that
or
is,
down.
okay, thank you.
Mr. Roskinek.
Derek, what was the unit price on comp one, which is the comp that you considered the strongest? What was that unit price, just so that,
The sale price?
per unit? Per square foot?
We have sale price per above ground square foot of $204,015.
And then based on your recommendation, what would the assessed value unit be on the subject property?
Right around 205
I got 159.
or 50.
I'm taking your suggested, I'm only looking at the,
Are you taking just the building value?
okay, your total assessed value then.
Yeah.
Okay. The subject site, what kind of a view did the comparable cell one have? The
As far
site,
as a view, in regards to view, I would consider it inferior to the subject.
Because if I recall, the subject property's got a kind of a panoramic view of the
Right,
valley where
yeah.
Reptile Gardens is sitting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right, yeah, and in comp one, it's going to be off Sturgis Road. It's going to be more in the trees. It's more level lot that doesn't have a view, I would say.
How's the access to the subject property?
It's a gravel road off of Samus Trail. You turn left on Moon Meadows, you go around those apartment buildings, and then you get on Samus Trail. It's a gravel road.
But it's accessible.
It is accessible, yes.
That's it for me.
Thank you. Paul, first of all, I want to thank you for this, because I think what you are asking is pretty straightforward. You're thinking the total assessment should be 600,000, not 879,100, correct?
Correct.
And you give a detailed list of some of the repairs you made and so forth. So I just wanted to bring that forward, but I'll let you speak.
Just a couple, I appreciate the opportunity of being in front of you. Last year, we had 28% increase, and the idea of coming up in front of you scared the hell out of me. So I finally got up enough nerve to come here because our valuation now is 44.64. And last year, our taxes was just under $7,000.
Yeah.
With a 44.68%, it's going to really be a burden on the taxes. Just an idea. I presented to you the idea that the assessment value is $879,100. Last year's was $607,800. Now we're going to have a 44.64% increase. And below that, I just showed some taxes that we paid over the last couple of years. The structure value is listed at 576,300. Land, this is off of our comparable sales report, listed at 226,000, not 200,000. I like numbers that tell the truth. I don't like numbers that go back and forth. So what I'm saying is the 226,000 is what we have on our comparative sales report. My wife and I went to every one of the houses on this comp 1 through 5 and looked at the land uses there. Some of them have pasture for horses. All of them were 1,000 times better than our land of 4.8 acres.
Do they have your view?
They don't have our view. Some
Okay.
of them have really nice views, but they're not. Some have trees around them. We have a nice view. I agree with that. So the reason Derek picked up the cost per acre is my son had 13 acres adjacent to our property, sold it to a storage unit that are going to put storage units all in that 13 acres. As you all know, businessmen have land. You put a storage unit next to your property. Derek said that there's one that had a storage area that didn't change. He didn't give me the opportunity of looking at it. So I disagree with that 100%. The one that you all know, you put a storage unit next to your property. The realtors I talked to said you anywhere from 20 to 25% decrease in your value for having people come around on your gravel road into that lot. No matter what you think one way or the other, it's going to decrease the value of that land and property. So when Adam sold that pasture, and if I could, can I approach?
Yes, sir.
This is a picture of the pasture, and I'll get you to work a little bit here. This is one of the sides of the house. Here's another one. You can't climb up there to get up there on those 4 acres. Here is a picture of the south area where the well is, and to go up to the house is over 120 yards. We've had to replace that line from the well to the house twice. And if you notice on the sheet I provided, we have paid out over 32,000 or $28,000 on well repairs. I know everybody's going to say those are common repairs. It's not common repairs to replace your line from the well up to the house. Also, I also showed Derek that we've had flooding in the basement where we had to put in 3 sump pumps. We had to cut up the basement floor, put channels to run the water into the sump pumps. That's not normal. The most recent thing we have a $6,000 estimate to pump up our patio to raise up the ceiling. It sagged 3 inches. That's not normal maintenance. So we spent over $66,000 on this house. And like Ron mentioned, you got to compare apples to oranges. This isn't the common thing. Deb mentioned that the topographical vertical. If you can't use that land, granted you got a view, but it's not usable. If I had another 4 acres, I'd have a building on it today. I can't use it that way. So if you look down below, it has, I also listed here the Pennington County assessment of the structure, just the structure, at $576,300. My insurance agent did the appraisal on it, and he came with $546,000. That also includes the contents. So that way you know that would put down the structure alone at least $100,000 under that. So I put the overvalue of the structure alone, $30,000. I put the water maintenance and the storage next to your property, decreasing the value of $200,000. The land value, because Adam sold that pasture ground at 40, I think it's $47,000 an acre. Ours per acre is $47,083. I looked at every one of these properties. If you go down through comp 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, the next one is at 10,000 an acre. The next one is at 16,000 an acre. The next one is 21,000. The next one is 20,000, and the other one is 7.7 acres at 32,000. They do not compare to our property.
Chairman.
Yeah, are you done, sir?
Let me go one more thing. I'm like Deb, I like to ramble a little bit. Anyway, if you
A
go
little
down.
rough. Nobody rambles more than me, but
I
you
know
go
it,
ahead.
I'm coming
You
close.
go ahead.
I'm coming close.
I get a little rough around the edges,
Hey,
but I'm
the
okay.
I put
honesty's
down
getting
all
good
the
here.
items I had dispute with,
But you go ahead.
all the items I have dispute with, and I came up with a value of around 600,000 or less. You might disagree with that. Oh, I wanted to show you, these are, these are the, I got it here. Okay. These are the pastures I looked at. This is my printer. I used up all my ink on my printer, so these are all very good. This is the one on Sturgis Road.
Yeah.
Here's the other one, and you can look at the land usage of those, much nicer. On cop number 4, our good friends of us, Ron and Gene Drummond, owns that. The problem I think with the adjusters, you got to get out and check, like Ron said, check the property and see what you have there. You got to inspect it. To do numbers and not go out and inspect it, it's not a good deal. If you would have came out there beforehand, before you made your appraisal, and inspect the land and everything, you would have had a different valuation. So, thank you very much.
Thanks, Paul. Ms. Hadcock.
I know Ron and Jean Drummond, they're good people, by the way.
Oh, they're sweethearts.
They've always been nice to me. Paul, so have you had a current appraisal on this property?
No,
When's the last time you had it appraised?
we had it. The insurance people appraised it at 546,000.
How long ago was that?
It would have been last year.
That was just the content, that was just the house?
Structure and contents.
Okay. If you had a current appraisal, that would probably work a little bit better for doing comparables for me.
You have 5 days to get everything done. It's pretty tough to get everything done.
You had
But when-
5 days.
I know.
I'm teasing you, Paul. It would, for me, the appraisal, if people have an appraisal that is done in the last couple of years, it makes sense. I mean, because I own property, because one minute it's 30,000, next minute it's 60, or it's 10. It's hard to do, for me. I like what our equalization does. I don't like everything everybody does all the time, but that's why I had asked the questions when I first started as well. And so also I asked the questions so other people know. So, this is a beautiful house. I haven't been inside, but I also know, what's the doctor that owned the plane that was behind here? We've been around the land and stuff. It is some really nice
Krafka?
land. Krafka. He's a good man too. That land is pretty valuable up
He
there.
pays a lot less taxes than we are going to do.
I can understand why in some cases. Not because of East Krafka, it's because, yeah, some of the different topographies and stuff he has. I have to look at his, I've been on his property, but I am not an appraiser, so.
Okay.
Anyway, this is some pretty nice property, Paul.
Mhm.
Some of the improvements for 66,000, that's a lot of money. I'm not gonna discount that. But for this property, I don't know, I think that appraisal's, what Derek has done, that equalization is pretty good,
We haven't done any modifications within the last 10 years.
right?
You done, Deb?
Yes, sir.
Paul, my assessment is I think, yes, you had some big problems. I mean, I'm glad you addressed them to us and said how much you fixed the property. And that's part of maintaining the property, well, going out, the structure settling and so forth. And I, although I understand the cost to bring it up there to value, that's also where you're keeping it up so it keeps its value. You know, the 200,000, I disagree with you on the value of the land because of where it's at, the view, the storage meters may come in and you feel that's gonna be impactful. We'll see. But I don't think so with the views you got coming in. So that's just my comment. I'm gonna go around to the rest and then I'll let you speak one more time before we go.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Laster.
I am kind of familiar with that property, not because I've driven out there to it, not because I'm trying to be a spy, but my kids used to work right across the street over at Fort Hayes. So
Yeah.
I've been over there and I've seen the look of that area over there. It's a pretty nice area and there's a lot of nice homes in that particular area. So I can't, I mean, I can't see where, with the sales that we have and the value of the properties and stuff that have gone up. I understand no one wants their stuff to go up until it's time to sell. But, sometimes, that's the market we're in right now. And I think they've got it pretty close.
Any further comments from the commission before I let Mr. Paul speak?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Drews.
I don't know how I would change the house or recommendation on the house. I think the land, just because of the lay of the land, is high. My figures were about $41,600 an acre. And he said the 13 acres is sold next to him, sold for about, I think that figured out to about 38,600. Obviously, in my opinion, that land would have had quite a bit more value than the 4.8 acres that he has that slopes down that hill. Quite frankly, I don't know how you'd ever use that without going to a tremendous amount of expense. So I would favor, if anything, to lessen the price on the value on the land.
Thank you, Mr. Drew. Mr. Roskinek, did you?
Mr. Chair, could you get on the GIS map and show us where these proposed storage units could go in relationship to that's the only thing that concerns me. The land, I don't look at it per square foot, I don't look at it per acre, I look at it per building site. That would be your unit of measure. What are building sites going for with views? That's what I look at. And the 200,000, I could probably live with that, but it's that storage unit proposed, although it's not there, that's what could be a little concerning. And that would not only have an impact on the land, but it would have the impact on the current improvements that are on the land.
And I believe it's in the board document, it's the last page, it's called or titled adjacent land sales. It's the highlighted property, that's the subject property.
Could you highlight the storage unit
Yeah,
property?
so it's those two parcels immediately, that would be east. Yep, that one, then the one right above it.
Okay, so that particular land sale, have you verified what it's zoned? Because part of that is zoned commercial, general commercial. So you're comparing,
We're right,
so
yeah.
it's got that commercial overtime, and that's when you start getting into the per square foot.
Right, yeah.
And so that's the only thing I'd be a little worried about. Because once those storage units are built, I don't know how, I'd have to address it.
And especially, the subject property, you look at the map, the subject property is one of the few impacted properties by those storage units, just another appraisal challenge of sorts going forward.
You can see our lane that goes right along the 13 acres.
Driveway.
And those acres were sold for $500,000, just under $500,000. And you take that 13 times your $500,000, I think you're over 31,000 per acre.
It's like 38,000
Okay.
is what my figure was.
Might be even a little higher than that.
But, Mr. Chair, but it's still blank land currently, right? So no one has started to build anything here.
All their equipment, you see where the line goes across? Right in there, they have a fenced-in area where all their fencing is stacked right there. So, to my idea, I wouldn't put all that fencing out there unless I had intentions of building that storage unit around there and fencing it in. To me, I wouldn't think you'd spend the money unless you're gonna do it.
Chairman,
Well,
go ahead.
I was going to say, then I guess that would probably more impact your 2024 assessed value rather than right now, because currently, this is based on 1st of November.
They're
I
not gonna
don't,
do it, not in the wintertime, they're gonna do it this summer when they're, have all the equipment out there, that's when that fence is going up, and that's, they put the transformer in right where that line that goes across there, a brand-new pole with transformer in there, so you know it's gonna be done. There's no question about it not being done.
Chairman.
You done, Mr. Lester?
it's fine, go ahead.
Ms. Hackett?
So on the line, when you first come into Samus Trail, they're gonna build on that parcel, that first parcel right there? Or are they gonna build on those two parcels, Paul?
The two partials,
They're not just building on that first parcel for the,
no, both of them.
okay, and it depends how far they go in. If that land's that valuable, I can't see them just putting storage units on it for that value. You already know for commercial property, unless they just put the mother load on there. On number two, Samus Trail's become a MDR, which is medium density residential, which is all the commercial, basically. All it is apartments and different things. That whole area I see is probably commercial, so that land right there's got to be pretty valuable.
If you look across Fort Hayes, just to the north of there, they have Fox Run right there.
Yes, sir.
They use all that land. They're not gonna use part of it. You spent that much money, you're gonna use all that land. I can't imagine not doing that. It wouldn't be good
Right.
business.
And if someone bought your house, you still have some acreage besides the 4 acres to build on something, and you'd be surprised when you have a view like that, what you could build on
It's
right there.
down this way.
Your house from your house going south, is the 4 acres dropping off of the house, or it's going to the west, Paul? Because I think it's going to the west, isn't it? If I recall, I've been to the house, but I didn't look on the other side. This is the southern part?
Yep.
Then I'll give that to Lloyd and those guys.
Here's the east or northeast part. I used up all my, I'm sorry. I could have had some more pictures, but as it turned out, here's the north side.
So can I ask you, Derek, when you did other comparables, we talked about this buildable area. Did you take that in consideration, or do you think, personally, you can build on those areas besides those other 4 acres, besides where his house is at? Did you take that in consideration if it comes off the side of a hill, that it's probably not buildable?
Where the house is at for the subject property, that's pretty much the only build site, because it drops off southeast into the south of the house. I certainly won't dispute that. You get out the backyard, we'll call it, you can't build on that because of the topography.
So you took those in consideration, and then you did the structure, and the structure is worth that, I'll just tell you, because even if with the 66,000, sir, but the land is more where the area is, and you did comparables on that. The problem is, Paul, you're right next to commercial. That's some pretty valuable land.
It's not gonna be valuable because you can't use it for anything.
But
You can, sorry, Lloyd, you can build, my husband is a builder, ask Krafka and his friend Drummond. So you can build on most anything in one sense. And the other, I can honestly say, I did not go out on this parcel and look over the edge. I just looked when I drove down because I thought it was a beautiful house and my sister knew the military. So back then she was with a swim team with him or something.
Oh, sure.
But that's how come she's like, go take a picture. So anyway, I have to think about it. I think Derek did a good job, though.
Or yeah, if I could just jump in,
Go ahead, Derek.
when I looked at comparable sales, I focused on the structure. We have a house that's built in 1960 that's over 4,200 square feet above ground. So that was the biggest consideration I made when I looked at comparable sales, conceding that there would be adjustments for various land and land values, because I'm certainly not going to argue with Paul where you look at the per acre prices for the comparable sales, they're going to vary pretty drastically because of that focus on the house itself when considering
So
comps.
know what you know now, Derek, because you know there's going to be some storage units by the house. Is the land still is worth much? You put the house at 226. Did you compare it with a commercial property, or did you compare it with a house that, you see where I'm going?
Right, yeah.
Does it make it worth less if it's by commercial property?
Clarification, you said 226 for the
Yes,
house.
That's the land.
226 is the land value, sir.
Or yeah,
Oh, the
the land
land
value's
value.
200,000. I apologize if
Yes.
that
Okay.
looks different
Okay.
on your sheets. And when considering land and being around commercial, the house that's valued for residential purposes, you wouldn't have a house on commercial land. So it would be valued as a residential lot.
Right, which I understand. I'm saying if I have a expensive house and I'm gonna have storage units and have commercial next to it, does it devalue, does it value it more, or just it doesn't make a difference? You came up with your comparable of 200,000, with other properties that were comparable on their land because of with the house, or because of what the topography and stuff of the land was?
Where it would just be based off of the land itself, the 200,000 for land value. And as far as outside influences such as commercial, any sort of adjustment or reduction, you would need to see it in sales in order to take that into account, if it needs to be taken into account.
How about topography wise, because you have some of this land, ours is at, or this one's 256, 184, 161, 237, 255. Are those comparable? Do you look on comparable land, like I'm saying? Is the topography on that land, is it buildable land? Is it flat area? Is it topography that these guys, if you saw, and we saw the pictures, it's kind of coming off cliffs, so they have not a lot of
Right,
flat
yeah.
area.
And so are you talking the land for the comps?
Yes.
Where that's going to vary. I believe it's the comp that's off 47th Avenue West. That could have some view influence, but most of the comps are going to be on a flat parcel, or they're not going to have the topography concerns that the subject has.
I guess that's why I'm asking you that maybe it shouldn't be at 200, because I am not an appraiser, I am not a equalization officer, but I'm looking at common sense with a topography, but also, is the house, does the land, when we talk about view, because we always say view is worth more money, is it because the land makes, and the view goes with the land, and because of that view, or is it the house? I'm trying to figure this out, why we'd have it at 200,000 compared to something that we couldn't build on that was in the area that's a little bit more buildable or can add more to the house and to the property.
Right, yeah, with taking views into account, that would be reflected in the land value.
Okay,
If there's any adjustment needed for view, that would be specific to the land value. And as far as an adjustment needed to the land for topography, where once a parcel is improved, if there was a reduction needed to the land value for topography, once that's improved, that reduction is no longer there because there's a build site, a house is there now. It is no longer needed.
and it's not any
Right,
difference
yes,
then.
it's not an influence anymore because that build site's there.
Thank you. You guys have to remind me of these things every year, but I apologize, but it's nice for the public to hear it too, so thank you.
Mr. Chair.
One comment I'm going to make before I go to Mr. Oskner. Sometimes the topography is to a person's benefit because nobody can build next to you, and that's why they build That's why I built next to a ravine. I had a good view. I knew no one's moving in next to me. We have plenty of residents that come to us and say, they're getting too close. We don't want people in our building next to us or on this road or so forth. So sometimes just saying I can't use my land means it's worthless. It's a benefit in a way too. So I just want to kind of clarify that we're kind of going down this road where we're saying, well, it's not usable, I can't use it, but that's what makes it desirable to a great many.
But you have a storage unit right next to your house. You know, you want to be away from everything.
Well,
Just like you said, you wanted
it's
to.
not there yet. So
Well,
I
if you come,
can't make that assessment
come
without.
here next year, Paul, and you show us that storage, it might be an impact, and probably equalization, if you show them if it's, how it's impacting, they might,
My
I'm not saying
comment
they would, they
is,
might.
my comment is, why do you put all the fencing out there and have a transformer put in if you're not going to do it? It doesn't make sense. You're a businessman, and if you're going to do that, that's common sense. There's nothing else. Another thing I want to issue, state, we have all these comp buildings. I didn't get Derek said he has another storage area, house next to that. I didn't get a chance like Ron does. He goes out and inspects. I would have went out and looked at that building and talked to the people there, ask them how do they feel about being next to that storage unit and the problems of it. I would have done that. I didn't have the opportunity.
Thank you, Paul. I'll go to Mr. Roskinek.
Okay, my motion would be, and I am going to take into even if the storage units don't get built, we know it's zone commercial. People don't buy commercial land to build houses on, so it's going to get developed sooner or later commercially, but I'm assuming it's going to be the storage units. And with that being said, until they're built, but just the overtone that everything's in place for them to build, I would, my motion would be 835,145, 200 for the land, 635, 145 for the house.
Can't do
That
one.
would
Say
be a
those
reduction
numbers?
of 5%.
Hold on, guys. Kara said we can't do
Can't
that.
do 135. It can't end in 135. It has to be an even number.
Okay, this total would be 835, 200, 635, 200 for the house, 200 for the 200,000 for the land, and what that would do is it would just be a 5% reduction off of the suggested assessed valuation of 279, 100.
So your reduction's off the structure, correct?
Correct.
So we have motion
Second.
and a second for 635, 200 for the structure and 200 for the land,
Mr. Chairman.
which comes up to 835, 200. Okay, so we have motion and second. Mr. Laster.
I thought the biggest contention was about the value of the land. We didn't change the value of the land, so I'm inclined to keep it where it's at. I do agree with Commissioner Hadcock, and I kind of alluded to that, until those get built there, and I know Mr. Vinatieri is like, well, it's coming. Well, between now and the time somebody starts putting shovel to dirt, somebody could come in there and buy it from them, offer them some more money if they wanted to put in apartment buildings or something of that nature. So that's why I think I'm leaning to what the current value is by our equalization office. And then depending on what goes in there, then you appeal to the equalization office next year if you do have those storage units sitting right next to your house, because maybe it is an impact to your property value. So I'm not inclined to follow along with that particular motion, because I thought the biggest concern was the land, but we actually reduced the value of the home. And it seemed like we all were, at least I thought from the conversation, that no one was really arguing the value of the home. It was more the value of the land, so.
Thank you, Mr. Laster.
One more thing. I don't like coming here. I don't want waste your time, and I certainly don't want to waste my time. And like you said, you come next year, it ain't happening. I came here, like I was scared last year of coming here, and I had to come this year because it was so increased. I won't be here next year. I don't like doing this. I hate it. So I'm just saying, I can come back next year. It's not going to happen. So you can do what you want, but it's not happening. You can always say, oh, and you people sit here and you're used to it. When you're not used to it, it's scary.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding you. You can ask the people out here who's coming up here. It's scary to be here and talk to you. I'm intimidated by it. I don't like it. and it won't happen again.
Chair.
Mr. Hadcock.
Mr. Paul, it's better to sit on this side than that side, because I've been on that side too, and yeah, it's not only scary for you, if you watch me, I squeak more out there. So, I'm understanding what you're saying, but to be fair, and I'm also a business person, I need to see that those storage units are gonna be built there and how they affect you. That's what a person does, is see what happens.
Okay.
And if something better goes there, or they decide not to build them, then that's going to make the difference. And you should come here next year and not be scared, because we're not trying to be disingenuous by what we're saying today, sir. We're saying if you do build those storage units, and that does affect that area because it is commercial, that's the time to come in and say something. I don't even think you probably need to at that time. You could probably talk to Derek and not be scared and even come up here. You can go talk to Derek and just say, Derek, how does this affect my property at this time? Does it make a difference? He will be honest with you. They are equalization. That way, you don't even have to be here. So we appreciate people coming up here, even if you get one thing or another. We appreciate you being here, because the public is never usually the issue here.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Laster.
I'd make a substitute motion of land value at 200,000, structure value 679,100, which is the original assessed value from the staff, with a total value of 879,100.
Second.
So we have a substitute motion, pretty much to go with Director of Equalization's recommendation of 879,100 to be upheld at 200 for land, 679,100 for structure. Roll call vote, please.
Hadcock,
Aye.
Ross Connect,
Nay.
Drews,
Nay.
Lassiter,
Aye.
LaCroy.
No. So now we go back to the original motion. My comment is I'm going to support the original motion for the simple fact that if you have to put drainage into the basement and run it, and I know what you're talking about. I've seen that done. And some of those, so I'm more leaning to that. I believe land's worth what it is, but that's why I will support this motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion on the original motion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Hadcock,
No.
Ross Connect,
Aye.
Drews,
Aye.
Lassiter,
No.
LaCroy.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you.
If you look at the schedule, Horst is the next property owner, but he requested a reschedule, so that'll be on another day. Next in line is Peters.
So, Scott.
I need just a minute.
Okay. Mr. Peters, I'll let Mr. Scott speak first and apologize. Thanks for waiting around. We're running behind schedule, but
Just a minute. Waiting for mine to take over, so. See, we've got 2 of 3. So moving back. I think we're getting there. Okay. Scott Dressler, Appraiser, Equalization Office. The parcel we're looking at today is tax ID 57965, owned by the Peters, Brian and Karen. This is located at 5311 Greenwood Lane. It's out in the Green Valley area, so a little bit east of Rapid, south of Highway 44.
Mr. Chair, that's not the ID number I have.
Which number?
2597?
Oh, sorry, I wrote it down wrong on mine. You are correct on my board document, 2597. Let me double check. 2597, I wrote it down on my other sheet. So 2597. This is out in Green Valley. Our assessment this year mailed out at 421,700. My recommendation is going to be 406,200. That's going to be 55,000 on the land.
406, 200 on the building.
Sorry, 1 second. I have 3 big typos on my paper. 461,200 total value recommendation, 406,200 on the building, 55,000 on the land. Mr. Peters came in and we reviewed the information on the property. This neighborhood was reappraised this last summer. This home is a 2011 modular. It's 2,250 square feet, above grade, no basement. It's 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, and it has a detached garage of 576 square feet.
No, it'd be wrong too.
The 2 best comps are going to be the first 2 comparables in that grid that I gave you. Comp number 1 is on Green Drive. It's a 2004 build. It's also a modular home. This one's only 1,800 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. So it is smaller with 1 less bedroom and bathroom. It does have a larger garage. Both parcels are on 1 acre. That property sold in 2001 for $430,000. And then comp number 2, it's 6811 Southside Drive. It's a 2000 build. It's a stick-built home. It's 1,800 square feet, 3 bed, 2 bath. It has a significantly larger garage. It has an 1,800 square foot building for the garage. Also on 1 acre and sold this year for $436,000. This home is larger than typical for most of the things surrounding it. You're looking at a lot of modulars and mobile homes in that area out in Green Valley. With that size does need to be accounted for, which is why I am at a higher value than the 430 that the much smaller comps had sold for. In terms of on the map here, the subject property is going to be this highlighted parcel on the western edge. And then that first comp on Green Drive is straight to the east. And then the second comp is just a little bit further south down by the section line. This area, we've seen sales increase over the last few years. One of the changes this year was in the land value of the properties out there. The 1 acre is now valued at $55,000. We've had a few 1 acre sales over the last 3 years. The 2 that have occurred in the last 18 months both sold for $90,000 to $95,000 for 1 acre. So we're really just trying to start to bring that land up into the range that we're starting to see out there.
So Scott, this Green Valley area is still well water. There's no utilities.
With your home, is it on the city water?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're on
So-
city water,
so
but on
there-
the septic.
Correct. Most of them out here are still on septics.
But they are currently running the line from Rapid City, aren't they? That line is coming out there now, I believe.
Correct. There's a line heading that way.
Yep.
So
Yeah. One other question. What year is the mobile home?
this is a modular home, not a mobile home. So it's not
Modular.
on a metal frame. It's a 2011 build.
So it's a 2011, which makes it 10 years, 12 years old.
Correct.
And it's certified modulars, which means it's on the foundation piers, so you can finance it as a home. Okay,
And
I just wanted to get
Yep.
those clarifications that,
And the difference between the modular and the mobile, just for clarification, a modular still has to meet IBC for code, whereas a mobile home is going to be on the steel frame, on the wheels, and that just has to meet HUD code. So with the modulars, they do tend to then resell more in line with the stick-built homes in an
and they're
area.
financed as a home.
Correct.
Instead of special financing for mobile.
Yep.
Okay,
Correct.
I just wanted to get those clarifications out. Scott, anything else?
Nope, that's all I've got. So my recommendation being the 461, 200, those 2 best comps, one being a year old at 430 and a smaller home, and the other one being at 436. smaller home, significantly larger garage in that instance, though.
Okay. So Karen and Brian,
Yes.
thank you for your attachments that you gave us. So I'll turn it over to you to, you're not satisfied with the reduction that Scott's, I'll just ask, he did reduce it down from what, from 476, 700 down to 461. And you still think, what do you think should be and why?
But we're thinking, yeah, maybe 380, something like that, with
And-
the properties around us. I think pull the value down.
Take a look at them.
Okay. And that's, so your reason why you think it should be 380 is because of the surrounding properties around you?
Yes.
Yep. The county was supposed to go out there and tell these people to clean their junk up, and it's not been done. It's worse than when we moved there.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Roskinek.
thank you for providing the pictures. Have we gone out there and actually looked at these neighboring properties?
I drove out through there. That one on Green, it's right down the street. It's exposed within that same general market. The one down on South Side, the surrounding properties, that one are a little bit cleaner. You're looking more at stick-built and not as high a prevalence as mobile homes right down there on South Side Drive.
Anyhow, what I see here is a certain degree of what I call external obsolescence, and that is a loss of value that is not personally, or it's not directly in your property, it's a loss of value due to the neighboring properties. And I don't know how you address it, I don't know what the right number is, but these pictures, to me, I mean, if I was a prospective buyer, I guess I would be pretty leery,
Exactly.
knowing that it's just what you call pride of ownership, and obviously there's a lack of pride of ownership in some of your neighboring properties, but I don't know how we address that, how we convert that to a value.
A lot of those are rentals, and the landlords just don't seem to want to do anything with most of them anyway.
And we've tried. I mean, we've come down and talked to people here in the county. I'd be happy just if the guys would get out there and tell them they have to clean their junk up. It's terrible. One put a fence up to hide it.
Is there a homeowners association or covenants?
Yeah, there is, but it doesn't work. I mean, it's dangerous. They've got old cars and refrigerators that kids are going to get into. It's not good.
Did you have something? Just doing a little bit of numbers because of the neighborhood, because I agree that there is a degree part of that. And plus, I think, even though it's a modular, I think your property's well kept and so forth, but I'm thinking pretty high. So my thoughts is for the property would be 380,000 and the land would be 55, which would make it assessment at 430.
Yeah.
That sounds
It's
reasonable.
something, yeah.
That's just my guess. I
Mr. Chair,
haven't got a second for that.
I'll second that for
Actually, I was talking, I'm not supposed to make a motion, so I'd open that up for a motion. So,
There's a motion.
motion by Drews,
I'll second it.
seconded
But
by
I would want,
Roskinek.
I'd want whatever authority the county would have, that we need to get somebody out there and
Wonderful.
and see that these people follow whatever criteria we have in the county. And obviously, they haven't, but I think we're going to kind of work on that for you folks, because
That would be wonderful.
We'd even pay more taxes if it was get cleaned up out there.
So
What's the motion?
the motion is 380 for the structure, 55,000 for the land, which comes up to 430,000 is the motion.
That'd be good.
Chairman,
Ms. Hadcock.
Okay, so everybody knows
I
that's
don't-
visiting today that your assessment drops this year and then they equalize next year.
Yep.
So the percentage probably goes up. They
It'll
save you
go
money
up.
this year. Let's just make it up straight. So they'll make you happy while you're here. And then next year, when you come in, you have to come again unless there's something else different. But on the cleanup and stuff like that, hopefully we can get Dwayne from county to help. If you want to go to planning, that's what Dwayne does, and his name is Dwayne.
Okay.
And he will help you with that, and if you can't get that done, you have commissioners here that will help follow through with that.
That would be
That would be
wonderful.
wonderful.
All right.
Can I just verify, you said 55 and 380? That'd be 435, not,
35, right?
435.
okay, so it's
That
435?
was my calculator's fault.
Sure nothing.
Sorry, my phone could be
No,
wrong.
thank you.
Okay.
So it's actually 435, so the motion would be 380 and 55, total 435. Any further discussion?
Okay, cool.
Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Are we
Go
sure
visit
that
with
feels
me.
too fast?
What's that?
Are we sure that feels too fast?
Shouldn't I
It does
hang
feel a
in
little
there
fast, doesn't
longer?
it?
I'm about ready to say we need to take a little break. We're supposed to take one at about 3 o'clock.
I'll make a motion, take a 5-minute break.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to take a 5-minute break. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. We were told to go ahead and start without Ms. Hadcock, so we're gonna continue on. It looks like we have Terry and Janice Huckman coming up next.
Hockenberry?
Hockenberry.
Hockenberry.
Oh, she's there. Okay. And you've been watching, so we'll let Chelsea give her, we got Chelsea, you've been watching, so we'll let Chelsea give her report, and then I'll turn to you, sir.
Thank you.
Chelsea.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Chelsea Willett, Staff Appraiser with the Department of Equalization. We're here to talk about tax ID number 51509, located at 8980 Nemo Road, owned by Terry and Janice Hockenberry. Mr. Hockenberry's reason for appeal is in regards to the increase in the property value. The land is an improved parcel with a 1,450 square foot above grade home. That is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. The home has had a recent exterior inspection in June of 2022 for reappraisal. The homeowner and I did not discuss doing an exterior inspection since his main concern was in regards to the rise in land value. Mr. Hockenberry has 12.08 acres directly off of Nemo Road. The average acreage size that's sold in this neighborhood in 2022 was 3.54 acres with an average sale of $229,900. Provided in the packets handed to you is a sales comparison sheet and a map to view some of the sales near his home. Assuming the interior condition of the home is similar to that of Comp 1 at 500 Ridgeland Loop, a time-adjusted sale would have this comparable home's value near $450,000. Comp 5, similar in square footage above grade and also with 10 acres, which sold in September of 2022 for $839,000, which has an extracted land value of $382,200. Additionally, 2.5 miles away, there's a 9.12 acre sale in April of 2022 for $302,000. I believe that the value for Mr. Hockenberry's 12.08 acres is appropriate at $260,400. My recommendation is no change, with land at $260,400 and improvements at $272,300 for a total of $532,700.
Thank you, Chelsea.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Drews.
Okay, so I'm not sure I'm understanding. Okay, so the figures you're asking us to go by is on the cover sheet that you just presented us?
Yep.
It's not on where the subject property is?
Well, the total value will be on the subject property list.
Oh,
The total will be listed.
They're different figures. You got your 2023 assessment value at 532,700, and on your subject property, you got it at 484,300.
That's for cost. That breaks down cost value. If you go down to the market average at MRA,
Okay,
okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay, any further questions for Chelsea? Terry, I'll let you,
Well, last year it was valued at 361,000, and one thing that I don't believe anybody has really looked at, and I know, is about 2/3 to 3/4 of this property is floodplain, which I can do nothing with. And can I give you a?
yes, sir.
Okay.
Chelsea, did you happen to look at that property, the floodplain?
I have not been out to it, no. He appealed the day before the deadline, and then we kind of just scheduled something on the 19th for him to come in here to,
Okay.
and so we haven't talked about any of the
Have you
flood
seen this
stuff.
at all?
I have not.
No, okay.
Mr. Chair.
I'm gonna let Mr. Terry
Okay.
first. Terry, you want? Mr. Roskinick, do you have a question for Terry?
Yeah, I've heard this, nothing's changed with my property in the last year, on a few occasions today. And that might be true. What's changing is the market around and we have no control of that market. I mean, it is what it is. People are paying what they're paying. I'm not crazy about it, but this is what's changing. It's a very dynamic market. I don't know where it's going to stop. As an appraiser, I've been doing this for 30 years. I've never seen nothing like it.
Well, come out and look at our place, because there's nothing that compares to it that's been sold any place in this part of the country. It's a 1957 house that sits on a basement that was, part of it was poured in the 40s and finished up in 1957 as partial. And then we built a 360 square foot addition onto it in 2012. But the old floor plan is still pretty much the same: 2 small bedrooms and a small bathroom.
Relative to the assessment, your biggest concern would be the land and not necessarily the.
Well, probably both, but land probably the most, because like I say, I can do nothing with it.
I don't know how long you've been here today, but we've been hashing this land around, and 20,000 an acre, 28,000, 37.5, and yours would be 21,556 an acre if you wanted to look at it per acre.
Yeah.
And so we know that what has a major influences on land would be views, topography, access, and I noticed that Box Elder Creek meanders through the entire lot. And I used to live on Rapid Creek, and people pay a lot of money for that water, as long as you get one building site. So I'm assuming this is Box Elder Creek that goes through the property.
It is Box Elder Creek, but 90% of the time it's just a rock pile.
I see.
So Terry, continue, please. Go ahead and continue, please.
I don't know what else to say.
Well, usually what I ask people, well, what do you think it's worth? I mean, if you're going to appeal, I think you've given a good thing as far as the floodplain, but what is it you think that it's worth that's equal to your neighbors, so everything's fair? Do you have a number?
I don't have a number, because we were only aware that this was going to happen last Thursday. And we tried to get a number from a realtor, and it didn't happen.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming here today and at least starting the process. So right now, we've heard from Chelsea, and she's recommending no change, and you don't really have a number that you think is fair. I would suggest next year, probably meeting with Chelsea and going over this floodplain stuff and having a discussion with her. That helps quite a bit.
Well, I haven't had a raise since I retired. And you want 47.5% raise from me? I don't think that's fair. And it's gone up since 2019, it's gone up, according to the math, 89%. So
I,
Need to
Terry,
raise the property value.
yeah, Terry, I really appreciate your thought process on that. And like they're saying is, that's the appraised value. We've all in the same boat. I've got a property in Hill City that's, I think since I bought it, it's gone up 80%. So in 3 years. So older house, just like what you're saying, then built and added on to and so forth. That's part of the market. It's market driven. So I just, I don't know what advice I can give you. People are living in their homes. They want them as low as possible, but then when they get ready to sell, they want them up here. You know what I'm saying, sir?
I know what you're saying. When we bought that in 2010, I intended to stay there the rest of my life.
Yes.
And it may not happen because I may get priced out of the deal.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Lester.
I'm going to encourage you, and I've encouraged a lot of individuals to do this, because a lot of people see this and they say, oh man, my taxes are going to go up so high. Your taxes aren't, we don't even know what your taxes are going to be because we haven't set our budget yet. I'd encourage you to take the last couple of years of tax documents, print them off from the county, and then whenever we pass the budget, I encourage you to be a part of that budget process so that you can give your input on what you think the county should spend money on and what we shouldn't spend money on. And then whenever you get your next tax assessment, you'll see that the rise in your taxes, not the 80% or the 67% or whatever percentage it appears that it's going to be. And so I walk people through that now that I've kind of done it a couple of years and asked a lot of questions, and there's a way to understand how it goes. Typically, if your taxes go up, it's probably the school. I'm not trying to throw them under the bus, but it depends on how it is, because we're locked in on how much we can increase your tax.
And I'll just add on, Mr. Laster, I'm glad you got the school in there, but there's also
There's a whole bunch of taxing
there's a lot of
entities, correct?
It's not all us.
It's not all us.
It's not all us.
Understand that.
So
You're right, I shouldn't have used one taxing entity. I should have put them all out there.
Chairman,
Ms. Hadcock.
so we were saying that on, if I'm correct, Nugget Egg, on parcels that we talked about earlier, I don't know if you was watching, was 30,000 if it was 10 acres or less, or the value on land that was otherwise in that area was 37.5 or, so this is priced at how much an acre?
21,556.
Yep, that's what I got.
Okay. And do you have any topography or any areas that are unbuildable or anything like that on your land, sir? Or no access or anything like that on those 12 acres?
Floodplain.
Floodplain.
The only place that's buildable is where our house is right now.
Are you on floodway or floodplain? Because floodway you can't build on, if I'm correct, and floodplain you can.
Floodplain.
There's a
As far as,
above elevation that you can build on floodplain.
yes, where our house sits is higher than where the creek is.
Okay, so how much is floodway? And
I can't remember you mean the raise, or you mean how much acreage does he have in floodway?
is the 12 acres that he's on, how much is floodway?
Probably most of it. He's got a map. I do apologize. I don't know.
So if it's floodway, it's unbuildable, and if it's floodplain, it's buildable.
I don't know what it is. I don't.
So it's, do you see where I'm going? On floodway, if he can't build on it, his land is not worth 21 whatever an acre. And I usually don't, right?
Floodplain, he's got floodplain.
They're going to pull it up on GIS.
Okay. And the cost to build in floodplain, or floodway, you can't build anything. Floodplain, and we just dropped people's down from 37.5 to 25. That was topography and some other issues, and this is 21 something.
Okay. And this is on the opposite end, kind of where that neighborhood was from earlier.
No, I know, honey.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
just saying, because of the creek and the floodway or the floodplain, the topography on this, depending on how much buildable acreage he
There you go.
has.
There's none of it in the floodway. That is the floodplain.
That is the flood.
Okay, so most of his property is in the floodplain, which costs you a lot more to build on floodplain than it is floodway. So we dropped him to 21 something for floodplain area. We dropped other people for 25 that just have some buildable area because of topography. I guess to build in a floodplain, again, is going to cost you a lot more money.
Mr. Chair,
Are you done?
Yes, sir.
I guess what I
Ms.
want
Russell.
to, are we looking, what I see there is a building site. And we know that people buy 10, 20, 30-acre building sites with one sole use in mind, to build one single-family residence and outbuildings. There is enough property on here where it's not in the floodway, it's not in the floodplain, it's in Zone X, other areas. And his existing improvements are located in that particular zone.
Chairman,
Ms. Hadcock.
the X is the floodplain, Ron.
The X is other areas.
No, it's the floodplain. Am I correct?
Right, he's saying X is where his
Floodplain.
dwelling is. That's
On
what
a
he's saying by
on a
X.
firm map, a floodplain, whatever.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't cost you more.
You've got it flipped, Commissioner Hadcock. This is
The X is the floodplain.
which you can build it.
You can, but it costs you more because it has to be above elevation, some other stuff.
2 feet.
Right. Because of FEMA. You have to have, it's more expense than a topography or a issue with, and
Is there any other 12-acre properties in the floodplain nearby that are part of the comps?
No, I didn't, we really haven't had a chance to have a real conversation about the floodway.
And this, or floodplain.
Floodplain, excuse me, floodplain.
But is there any other area in that area in the floodplain or area that we could do a comparable that, when it was in the floodplain, it sold for still 21, 25? It didn't matter, as Ron said, it didn't matter if it was a floodplain, it was buildable.
Right, for me, ultimately, when I took a look at the land sales in the area, and I'm seeing the minimum acreage, or the average acreage size that sold was that 3-acre range.
Right.
And they were going for 220, 230 for that 3 acres. So 12 acres and more, and we have it valued at 260, and he's got probably 3 acres of a building site. I took that as,
Well, floodplain means it still can get water, and it floodplain also costs you more insurance. Floodplain costs you a lot more different things when you're gonna do buildable on that kind of land. So we talked about topography earlier. This is something that, again, if we're talking about how it changes or what it does for a difference for somebody trying to sell their land, it's huge.
Okay, you done?
Mr. Chair, one more comment.
I'm going to make a recommendation. I'm going to make a motion, and then I'll go to you. I'd make the motion of no change recommendation, 532,700, land at 264,400, improvements 272,300. That's my motion.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded. Now, discussion, I'll go to you.
Okay, so looking at this map, we got floodplain, and we have areas out of the floodplain. Just wanted to be clear on that. And the areas out of the floodplain is where you don't need any special permits, floodplain development plan. You just get a building permit and build. If this entire thing was in the floodplain, it would be a totally different story, but not all of it is in the floodplain. I'm guessing 5 to 10% is out of the floodplain.
Chairman,
Ms. Hadcock.
I would ask for a continuance on this so I can check into floodplain and some other areas because I believe it is a difference. And I don't know if Ron's not looking at the map, but most of the area that's on that square is floodplain, not buildable area. So I would like, if I would have a chance, to look at with the equalization, and if I'm wrong, I'm good with that, to see what floodplain and that makes a difference for buildable area. or what that entails for equalization.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a substitute motion to continue this item until it can be reviewed.
Second.
Do we got to give it a date? That's the question.
He's got to know when it's going to be brought back.
Shannon, do we have, tomorrow? I can look it up with one of your equalization by tomorrow, if you can come back, sir.
Tomorrow.
Shannon, do we have a time tomorrow? Wednesday, I'll be gone. I have to go to the doctor and I have other things I have to do in the morning.
Sure. 2 o'clock tomorrow?
Was that your motion? 2 o'clock tomorrow?
If it's good with him, 2 o'clock tomorrow?
Works for me.
Sounds good. That's my motion.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a substitute motion to continue till 2 PM tomorrow to give Ms. Hadcock a chance to go over with staff the floodplain.
Thank you.
Understand, sir? Okay,
Thank you for your time.
okay.
Hold on, sir, they gotta
Vote
agree.
on it yet.
Yep. All in favor? Let's do a roll call vote.
Hadcock,
Aye.
Roskinick,
Aye.
Drews,
Aye.
Lassiter,
Aye.
LaCroy.
Aye.
Yay.
Thank you for your time, sir.
Shannon?
Would like to skip ahead to the schedule to the last appointment. David Laughlin is here. Just hear him, and then we'll deal with some, the people that didn't show up before we finish the meeting.
Okay. So we have Bree.
Yes.
Hello.
Hi, Bree.
All right. Bree Davis, assessor with the Pennington County Equalization's office. The property being appealed is tax ID 42583.
Thank you, sir.
Is assessed at $1,554,800. This parcel belongs to David and Linda Laughlin, located at 13897 Morgan Court, Rapid City. This is a 1989 single-family residence that sits on 18.55 acres with 3,196 square feet of living. The property consists of a 4,200 square foot equipment shop and a 1,600 square foot farm utility building. I spoke with David on the phone about the home. He states there have been no updates, but the house does have some structural issues and has been shifting the last few years. Upon discussing the structural and shifting issues, resulted in me reducing the condition of the home. David is also concerned about the land value increasing as well. We have discussed the growing market in his area for land and land with improvements. The market average for 10 acres last year in this area was $375,000. After reappraisal last year in this neighborhood, with updating the data and adjusting the land based on these sales, our ratio is up from 77% last year to 94% this year. This brought the neighborhood up to market value. I would like to recommend a value of $1,363,300 with the land at $556,500 and the improvements at $852,100.
Give us those numbers again, Bree.
The recommended value at $1,363,300. The land at $556,500 and the improvements at $852,100.
Okay. David?
Yes. I think that's excessive. From the first sheet, I don't know what the assessed value for the neighbors that we've got. I'm assuming that you did 30,000 since these are comparables as far as our area. They're all on the same street. We're within probably a mile of each other from Hart Ranch Road West till the end of Clydesdale, which turns into Morgan Court, which is a dead-end street. It appeared that what they've done is taken the values from the Sudbury Ranch property that was just subdivided into 10 different units. And their value was approximately 40,000 per acre. I split that out according to each one of the properties, and that varied from, see, 19,792 all the way down to 18,365. Quote, same area, same subdivision. The next lowest one was 11,191. Same area, same subdivision, same size lot. I don't understand how that can be that much different from one to another next to each other when ours, which is just over the hill, an eighth of a mile, has gone up to 30,000. I'm applying for a reduction in the value of the assessed value on the property,
On the land itself,
on the land itself.
you're okay with the structure?
I'm okay with the structure. And the other sheets that are attached, or what I adjusted, the price from the 399,900 that they quote, claim that they were charged for the property, down to 199,900, because we know that they spent over 2 million for the road improvements and the hydraulics for water system, which shouldn't have been included in the price of the land.
Chairman.
Ms. Hadcock.
So David, if someone came to buy a lot from you or an acre, how much would you sell it for? Would you
I
sell
wouldn't
it?
sell it.
But what if you did?
I wouldn't sell it.
But if you did, what would you sell an acre for?
22,000.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Roskinick.
there again, because land's the major issue here, can we put up a GIS map so everybody knows where this piece of property is?
The side note is that we cannot use all the land. We've got approximately 3 acres that is formidable rock where it drops 20 to 30 feet along the west property line.
Who's your neighbor? Who's your neighbor to the north?
Dr. Voigt?
That lady?
No, he's a pathologist.
I know that we had one in this same street, and this is some of the ones that I looked at last week because I drove that entire just to make sure that and I think this is the same subdivision that Mark Kirkaby's in.
Yes, it is. Kirkaby's down on the
And
corner.
Mark's actually got a better site than yours because yours is from Hart Ranch. It's quite a drive in there.
It's about
when you hit that
it's about
cul-de-sac.
2 miles in.
Right. So yeah, what's it assessed at per acre now?
30,000.
Yeah, 30,000.
30,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Kirkaby's land was just purchased within the last year. I don't know which Clydesdale he's on. It's on this list, I'm pretty sure. For my comps, I went back 3 years as to what they quote were when they were bought.
When I drove up there, it seemed to me that you cannot go up an elevation, and I saw some views of the Harney Range. Can you see Harney Range from your place?
See which ranch?
Towards Harney Peak, that mountain range.
You can from the house. You can't from the property.
Okay.
The house is a 2-story with a loft.
How much did Kirkby sell his land for per acre? Do you remember?
I don't. That should be on record.
Do we have it
Not
on
off the
record?
top of my head, no. I would like to fix my math, sorry. The new assessment that I'd like to recommend is 1,408,600. I apologize, my math was wrong. I did it after.
1,000,000 for
Oh,
1,408,600.
600. And that, break that down, again, that's still the 556, 500?
Yes, and then the house at 852.1. Sorry about that.
2-1, 852.1. Okay. I'd be curious to see how much he got for when he sold his property.
Well, Kirkaby's, like I say, it was just purchased. There was a swap between the 2 properties, and that was 15,000. That was in December of last year. And his is flat down next to the road, down to Hart Ranch Road West.
So.
Do you have a sale on that, Shannon? Or you wouldn't know by the sale?
500.
That's what it.
Kirkaby's down, Clydesdale and Hart Ranch Road West. up in the corner.
So what is your, so what is the value of the land per acre, right?
Right now,
Right
it's
now, 30,000.
30,000, yeah.
You're looking for Kirkby?
I'd like to.
Kirkby's right below Belgian Court. You look at the top of your screen, come down one, and then the next one is Kirkby.
So as the crow flies, how far south are you on that Sudbury Ranch Road?
Sudbury Ranch at the top, if you scroll that map down to the south, it's just over that hill.
Okay.
Hart Ranch, Hart Ranch Road doesn't intersect with the Sudbury. The Clydesdale, they want to merge it. We don't want that. We like being on a dead end.
Sale was not an open market sale.
No, it's
I
family.
probably sold it to a friend for 15 something, yeah.
Who knows? It wasn't an open market sale. We can see the sales there.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
That was evaluated at 15,000, wasn't it?
Okay. One thing I want to bring up before I go to this is Bree's recommendation, the original assessment was 1,554,800. She readjusted it to 1,300,000 or 1,408,600, right?
Yes.
So you've reduced it down like 100
I made an adjustment on the house.
and you made an adjustment on the structure.
Yes.
So you brought the structure down 140 some thousand?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's where you come up with your reduction. I just wanted to clarify that for everybody that, she's made an adjustment already. Mr. Roskinek, did you have a comment?
well, at 30,000 an acre, if we do it by acre, Sudbury is at 37.5, and I do believe it's got to be lower than Sudbury. But then when you go further south, we're at 25,000 an acre, and this particular location would be better than that, and they're at 25, so, and it's lower than Sudbury. So the 30,000, I don't know, it just doesn't, seems in line with me.
Yeah. That's where I'm at, folks. Dave, do you have any more comments? Do you agree with the reduction that you did in the structure?
With the structure, yes.
So, but your biggest concerns with the land?
With the land.
Okay. So, folks, I'd look for a motion from the commission.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Laster.
I think after all of our conversation, my motion will be to uphold the Department of Equalization's recommendation, land at 556,500, structures 852,100 for a total of 1,408,600. Did I get those numbers correct?
Yep, I think so. I didn't add that up, but. Motion's been made by Laster, seconded by Drews. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, I'll just make
Mr.
comments
Laster.
on, I think, as we've talked a lot today, the Equalization Office has done a lot of work. They've had a lot of properties in that area they've had to work with, and they've done a lot of review over the several months to try to figure out the right value to equalize the land and the structures. And so I agree that they've done that in this particular case.
Any further discussion?
Chairman,
Ms. Hadcock?
this is called equalization, and I still believe that if you're gonna charge one guy 30, you should charge everybody 30. Based on equalizing and equalization, that's what they do. We had 1,300 people that ended up coming to equalization with appeals. Only 66 came here today and the next couple days. So that's a lot of people to appease before they even get here. And then equalize 125 and 130, to me, I don't think is equalizing and very professional of us. So that's my bottom line.
Okay, this is the recommendations that comes from the Board of Equalization of 1,408,600. Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, sir.
All right, Dave. Pick and choose here.
Okay, so let's move back up the schedule. Terry Sponder was here earlier. She talked to Derek. She's been talking to Derek, and then she left. Derek has a recommendation on the assessment of that.
Which one?
Sherry Sponder.
I don't know if I got that one.
It doesn't have a sheet on it.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, Sponder, okay.
11224.
Yes.
Yes.
Scheduled at 3 o'clock.
Yeah, 3 PM on the top right corner.
So that one's been taken care of, Shannon?
No,
No, we
Derek
don't.
has a recommendation. She left. You need to take action on it.
Okay.
Derek.
All right, again, Derek again here. Tax ID 11224, physical address of 6702 Bighorn Road, owned by Henry and Sherry Sponder. I'm recommending an assessed value of $664,900 with a land value of $269,300 and a structure value of $395,600.
Is there a motion?
That'll be my motion.
I'd second.
Moved by Roskinek, seconded by Lassiter. I probably didn't get those numbers. Could you replace those again? 269 for land?
269,300 for land, then a structure value of 395,600 for a total of 664,900.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Derek.
Thank you.
Okay, on the schedule, 310 is Gary and Maureen Gould. They rescheduled to another day. The only other one we got to deal with is 320 is Brick LLC. There's multiple properties in this one. There's an attorney representing the owner. Neither the owner nor the attorney could be here on any of the days that the commission is meeting. The attorney did submit some documents. You got those, but you just got them middle of the day today. That's when we received them. But Trevor has been working with the attorney. He has a recommendation, and I think we're going to have to walk down parcel by parcel.
Probably, yeah. The best way.
So you're going to start out with 36931?
Yes, 36931. Again, I'll state my name, Trevor Abernathy with Pennington County Equalization. 36931 is the Corral Apartments. It's currently assessed.
Name is this under?
There's Brick LLC, and then there's 3 other LLCs. There's Corral Apartments LLC,
Avanti.
Tiki Town?
Tiki Town LLC, and Avanti. I'm trying to get the LLC here.
Mr. Chair.
Avanti LLC.
Mr. Roskinek.
So before we get into this, each one of these are going concerns. And they're only appealing what they feel the real estate portion of the going concern is.
That's my understanding.
Yeah,
Yes.
just wanted everybody to know that this isn't a piece of real estate, it's a piece of real estate that generates income.
Yes.
Yep, okay.
Yes. Correct. So with Corral Apartments 36931, it is assessed at $939,800. That is $106,700 for the land and $833,100 for the improvements. I'm recommending no change to the assessment. And do you want me to just kind of list out all 4?
Let's deal with one at a time.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Lassiter.
could you say those values again?
Yes, $106,700 for the land, $833,100 for the improvements. Total of $939,800. So the first thing I wanted to touch on was I had numerous conversations with the lawyer here that had given us this letter, and I don't know if you had a chance to read this letter, but I had asked initially for some income and expense information, just to verify that what we had was accurate, and he did not provide that. I requested to inspect the property. That was also denied, so I haven't been physically to these properties for this appeal. I did do a drive-by, just looking at, making sure that the properties were correct, the photos were good, and I did that on the 13th of April. And then I was also told that our unit counts were incorrect, and when asked if I could see those unit counts and which of the rooms were renovated, they basically said, we don't want to spend the time to do that.
How many units do you think that has?
So the Corral Drive, bear with me just one second. I have down 21 units.
Okay, so yeah, give me just a second here. I just want to kind of look at this. I always look at unit, and so this would be your, units would be your number of apartments. So that would be 44,752 per apartment. And that number totally seems in line just with, based on my experience. And without the income, it's really hard to get, these properties are bought and sold on income. So if he didn't give you the income, there's a reason he didn't give you the income, probably. That's my opinion.
And we did run an income approach to value all of these based on our data that we have, but we don't have that that was
Do
not
we know if
provided.
those units were 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom?
We're counting them as efficiencies. I do have, I can hand this out, and it may, they're indicating that some are efficiency and some are 1 bedroom, so I'm not sure.
Thank you.
Are you done, Ron?
Yes.
I'd make the motion to accept staff's recommendations.
Second.
Moved by LaCroix, seconded by Lassiter. Kara, did you get those?
I did, thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Hadcock's going to abstain from these. So all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries with one abstention.
All right, I'll move on to the Avanti Apartments, tax ID 40427. The value we have on that is $80,800 for the land, with $1,664,600 on the improvements, for a total of $1.745400.
Is there any questions?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Roskinek.
So did we have the same discussion relative to inspecting, seeing profit and loss, any?
That's correct. It was the same discussion. I also was aware of this being listed for sale in August for $3.5 million. It was removed in January, and didn't sell, but it was listed.
Could you repeat those numbers again? Ron, do you still have questions?
What are the number of units for this one?
39 is what we have.
How many?
39.
I'm just going to look, I just want to see where that is per unit. So we're at the same unit, 44,700.
Correct.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve staff's recommendations.
Second.
Seconded by Lassiter, motion by Roskinek. Kara, did you get the numbers? Do you
I
need
think
them?
so. Is it 80,800 and then 1,664,600?
Correct.
Okay. Yep, got it.
Okay. Any further discussion? See none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries with one abstention.
All right, then we can move to Tiki Town Apartments. That's tax ID 40431. Same story here. I asked all the same questions and got the same response for this one. And with Tiki Town, I have down that there are 60 units in this apartment complex.
60.
60, correct.
What, where you have the land at?
So the 40431, I have land at 360,400, improvements at 1,772,500, for a total of 2,132,900. And I'm recommending no change.
That'd be my motion.
Moved by Lassiter,
Second.
seconded by Drews, to go with staff's recommendation.
Mr. Chair.
You got it, Kara?
I do, thank you.
Boy, you're good. Mr. Roscoe?
Well, beans, we've been looking at these on a per unit basis, is so that this one here comes in less than 36,000 a unit, and that could be the economy of scale, 60 versus smaller ones.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate, saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries with one abstention.
All right, the next tax ID here is 36821. This is the Rapid Apartments. I have land at 168,000, improvements at 1,040,600, for a total of 1,208,600. Again, same story with all the information asked for and provided there. I have 34 total units in our information. I will note that in their listing information, they show 33, but in not being able to verify information, I don't know if they have one on-site manager who's in a room or not. I wasn't able to verify anything, so.
I move to approve.
Just one question, Mr. Chair.
No, we have a motion. Did you make a motion?
I did make a motion
Okay,
to approve
we got a
staff's
motion.
recommendation.
I'll second. Roskinek.
So when you value these on an income approach, then are you just assuming what the FF&E looks like and giving it a value so that you can get down to the real estate?
Yes, we don't have FF&E built into our model, so we're just looking at, especially with this one, we're calling it a lower investment class.
Okay.
So we have higher expenses and lower income than the typical apartment would see.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion by Lassiter, seconded by LaCroy. What was those numbers again, Kara? Did you get them?
I've got them. Do you need to?
Yes, if you
Well,
could.
I cheated. They gave me them earlier.
Oh, they did.
So I can't take credit that I
Oh. Okay, you got the numbers? I think we're okay.
Okay.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one abstention.
Thank you.
That takes us to the end of our docket.
Yay.
I think we just need to make a motion to recess.
Move to recess.
Moved to recess by Lassiter, seconded by LaCroy. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Till what time?
Aye.
Till 8 o'clock tomorrow.
8 o'clock.
I think 8 a.m. is what.
It's 8 o'clock tomorrow.
Okay.
Recess to 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.